I, Hermione, travel through time to Marvel to be the savior. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351. The Hulk is stunned. Mr. Blue's private laboratory looks very ordinary on the outside. Although it is narrow inside, the equipment inside is not simple, which is enough to show the efforts Mr. Blue has made for his laboratory. Come here, come here. I want to give Mr. Green a full body check first. Dr. Blue has been restraining his madness. He is actually more excited than Robert Bruce Banner, which seems abnormal. As Banner's girlfriend, Betty Ross expressed her concerns, but now only Mr. Blue has the opportunity to cure Banner. There is no way but to choose to believe in Mr. Blue. After a while, Banner just cooperated and lay on the bed in the laboratory. He looked a little nervous. His girlfriend beside him was like a family member, holding his hand all the time and comforting Banner. Even though his beloved girlfriend was by his side, what Banner himself did not expect was that he suddenly thought of Hermione, goddess, in his mind. If God was by his side, he should not be in too much danger. Although Hermione has not done too many miracles, her reliability and a sense of solidity have penetrated into the hearts of superheroes. This is the case with Iron Man, and now the Hulk. Banner is the same. It seems that Hermione, the savior, is still quite powerful. The night gradually spread over the earth, and the lights of thousands of houses in the city were on. Everyone had their own things to do. Even the stray dogs and cats in the corners of the city were the same. But few people know that in an ordinary residential area, in the 48th block, on a floor, a thrilling scene was staged. In order to prevent the Hulk from riding and injuring people, Mr. Land tied Banner's limbs, and then began to inject him with a special liquid he had studied while he was still in human form. Mr. Land had already watched the gamma-ray research data brought by Banner, and this time it was the right medicine for the disease. The surrounding instruments were constantly monitoring Robert Bruce Banner's next physical changes. Don't be nervous, start to relax. We're going to start. Although Mr. Land said so, he was actually the most nervous and excited one. As a crazy doctor, he had been studying normal scientific projects, and no one knew how boring it was. Now that he finally got a mutant human who was like an art, the excitement was no less than that of a person who had been hungry for 3 years and suddenly saw a big fish and meat. The invisible God was suspended in the air. Although Miss Hermione was still erudite, there was no end to learning, and Hermione would not be arrogant and stop moving forward. Although Mr. Blue was still immortal, as a doctor with professional research, some of his research data was still worthy of Hermione's careful observation. As a person with good learning habits, Hermione also watched with relish. It started in another place in this area, in the military command center, in an information big data detection room. Professional information experts began to crack and lock Mr. Blue's location. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross said nothing. He kept an eye on the big screen until he successfully found Mr. Blue. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross finally smiled. Let's go. This is the third time Robert Bruce Banner has been captured in the movie The Incredible Hulk. This time it is imperative. The action team was fully armed, and Emil Bronsky, who was destined to compete with Banner, had also fully recovered. He looked like a normal Special Forces soldier, but in fact he was no longer a normal human being. His eyes revealed his inner fanaticism. He was abused by the Hulk twice. This time he must get back his face. On Banner's side, in the laboratory, as the special potion entered Banner's body, Banner began to suffer and his body began to change. The green power emerged from Banner's body. Hermione and Betty Ross had naturally seen the scene of Banner turning into the Hulk, but Mr. Blue didn't. He opened his eyes wide in shock, and his pupils were flashing with eye-opening. Oh my God, this is simply art. As Banner's girlfriend, Betty Ross came all the way here, hoping that Mr. Blue could heal Banner, not to make him amazed and obsessed. Dr. Blue, please push the healing potion quickly. There are 2 potions in total. Just now, only one of them was injected, and now it's the second one. However, Mr. Blue has exposed his inner madness, and he has been reluctant to press the switch. Not only because Mr. Blue wants to appreciate the spectacular scene of the Hulk that surpasses ordinary people, but also because he has selfish motives. He doesn't want to heal the Hulk, because he knew that it would be difficult for there to be another Hulk in the world. If this one was cured, such perfect art might never appear again. For some fanatical ninjas, art might be an explosion, but for Mr. Blue's research experiment, Mr. Green's existence is art, which is much more exciting than appreciating beautiful women. The invisible Hermione was also anxious. She waved her hand and let the machine inject the second tube of medicine into Banner. Banner, don't lose your mind, you can do it. When the second tube of medicine entered Banner's body, it really worked. Banner, who had just painfully transformed into the Hulk, had gradually calmed down. Of course, Miss Hermione would rather believe that the reason why Banner calmed down was because of the comfort of his girlfriend Betty Ross. In the movie, a beloved woman is often more important than enlightenment. Love is the source of all power. It is especially important for a man like Banner who is infatuated with love. Of course, for Iron Man, who is a playboy and has seen countless women, it is a bit ironic. Banner's Hulk body began to gradually return to normal. Betty Ross cried with joy. She hugged Banner, who was a normal person, and said, "Great, Banner, we succeeded." Banner seemed to be exhausted. His face was a little pale, although his beloved woman was by his side and the experiment just now was smooth with the help of Goddess Hermione. Banner was not too optimistic. If it was so easy to succeed, then wouldn't the sudden arrival of God before be more ridiculous? "Congratulations, Mr. Green." Mr. Blue pretended to calm down. In fact, the unique scene just now touched his heart very much. After seeing the super mutation, it was difficult for him to return to the ordinary research before. This feeling is like a game fan who has played AAA masterpieces and then asked him to return to playing Connect for several hours every day. He absolutely can't stand it. If you haven't played AAA masterpieces, playing Connect and Fruit Ninja every day is actually quite interesting. So, how terrible human desire is, it can never be filled. Just want more. But Mr. Blue is still a doctor, and he cannot show his madness. Otherwise Robert Bruce Banner and Betty Ross will no longer trust him. His hesitation just now has already caused Betty Ross's dissatisfaction. "Come here, let's take a blood test." If Banner really becomes an ordinary person, then his blood can be seen to have changed. Banner can only trust Mr. Blue for the time being. When they came to another laboratory of Mr. Blue, Banner looked at the blood bags hanging in front of him, and he was stunned. What are these? Chapter 352 The Incredible Hulk Finale. This laboratory is also not spacious. It can be seen that Mr. Lan is financially constrained. There is no way. There is no consortium to support it. All of this was built by Mr. Lan himself with his salary. It is not easy to have the current scale. The blood bags in the refrigerator are so dazzling. Banner was supported by his girlfriend Betty Ross, and he asked in surprise, "What's going on with all this?" Mr. Lan has not completely gone crazy. As a doctor, he turned back and even boasted a little. "These are all your blood, Mr. Green. Your blood is really precious, but you only sent me a small tube for research. That little blood is not enough." Betty Ross once again noticed the madness of this Mr. Lan and became more alert to this doctor, and Banner frowned directly. "Mr. Lan, didn't we agree? My blood is only for your research on healing potions. You can't do it for other purposes. It's too dangerous and must be destroyed." Banner knew what his blood represented. This Mr. Lan was too crazy. It was also the first time that Banner realized that he shouldn't trust him so much. It almost caused a disaster. Wait. As Robert Bruce Banner's online friend for many years, Mr. Blue naturally understood that Banner was a pacifist. He immediately explained, "Mr. Green, I cultivated your blood and did so much, not to create new mutants, but for medical research." Mr. Blue excitedly took out a lot of research materials to show Banner, so that he could understand the significance of his scientific research. "Your blood is extraordinary. 99% of viruses can be killed, and various cancer cells can also be cured. Mr. Green, Do you know what this means? If we can conduct in-depth research, we can make drugs to cure all mankind. It's beautiful, but Banner has seen the greed and hypocrisy of human beings. He can't believe Mr. Blue. At the same time, he also feels that Mr. Blue, as a doctor, he currently has no ability to protect these important research. If a large amount of Banner's blood falls into the hands of bad people, the consequences will be disastrous. No, it's too risky. You don't know how terrible gamma rays are. They must all be destroyed. This experiment must be terminated immediately. The parties disagreed, and Mr. Blue was helpless. He even fantasized about being able to pull Banner in, because Mr. Green was also a scientist. The wisdom of the two of them combined would definitely change the world. Okay, let's talk about this later. Mr. Blue didn't want to agree with Banner so quickly, so he changed the subject and said, "Let's see if the experiment just now is completely successful." Banner was silent, although he was unhappy that Mr. Blue was doing small moves with his blood, looking at the dozens of bags of blood being cultivated in front of him. This was no longer a small move, but a big move. Banner temporarily cooperated with Mr. Blue. After all, he came all the way here just to be able to heal his body, draw blood and take it to professional instruments for testing. Great, Mr. Green. The blood in your body is almost the same as that of a normal person. Betty Ross smiled immediately after hearing this. Even though she felt that Mr. Blue didn't look like a good person, it was naturally a happy thing to be able to heal her boyfriend. But Robert Bruce Banner was not so optimistic. "You continue to do the experiment." Mr. Lan understood what Banner meant. Both of them were scientists. Some questions could be understood without being said. When Mr. Lan dripped the drug that stimulated the blood into the test tube, a strange scene appeared. Banner's normal blood began to change instantly, from bright red to green, and at the same time burst out with powerful energy. With a bang, the pure blood exploded and directly blew up Mr. Lan's advanced equipment. The sudden occurrence of this scene stunned everyone. Then Banner and his girlfriend Betty Ross's heart instantly fell into an ice cave. Failed again. Girlfriend Betty Ross was afraid that Banner would be sad, so she tried to calm down and comforted him. "Banner, don't be discouraged. This failure does not mean that we will fail again in the future. Next time, or the next time, we will definitely succeed." Mr. Lan also hurriedly said, "That's right, we must continue our research, and the blood here can also be used as abundant experimental items." Mr. Lan's real purpose was not to want Banner to destroy the blood here. You have to know how difficult it is for Mr. Lan to cultivate so much Banner blood. However, Robert Bruce Banner looked around and suddenly made a decision that was difficult for everyone to understand. "It's incurable. This kind of wrong research should not continue. Let me bear the pain alone. Everything here must be destroyed and the research must be stopped. Can't go wrong anymore." God is right. Robert Bruce Banner has been escaping. He and Mr. Lan have worked hard for many years and have never succeeded once. And Mr. Lan has begun to go crazy. If he continues to study, the consequences will be disastrous. It is necessary to stop the loss in time. Banner, girlfriend Betty Ross didn't understand very much. Banner had escaped for so many years just to completely get rid of the transformation of the Hulk. Why did he give up today after only one experiment failed? Even if Mr. Lan is a little perverted, there is no need to give up completely. However, at this moment, an unexpected situation occurred. The glass outside the window suddenly shattered, and a shot of anesthetic hit Banner's neck directly. The invisible Hermione's system immediately gave options. Option 1. Help Banner escape capture and eliminate the pursuers at the same time. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with a pair of cool slippers. Option 2. Wait and see. Even if Banner is captured, he will not die. So don't worry. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with +1 basic attribute. Option 3. End the game and end it in advance. It requires a nuclear bomb to be detonated on the spot to bring all the stories to an end. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with the golden pistol. Option 3 is still interesting. Miss Hermione can imagine a huge mushroom cloud that appears in the night sky after the nuclear bomb explodes. That is the real art. However, this kind of thing is just a thought. If it is really done, Is Hermione still the Marvel Savior? She should change her name and be called Marvel Destroyer. Let's wait and see. Miss Hermione does not need to force herself to come forward. She only needs to change her movements slightly in secret. The military's tranquilizer gun is extraordinary. Robert Bruce Banner, who has not yet transformed, was shot in the neck. In less than 3 seconds, he collapsed and lost consciousness. It seems that the fatal flaw of the Incredible Hulk is still very fatal. It's too easy to capsize if you're not careful. Banner. His girlfriend Betty Ross picked up Banner in fear and pulled out the needle from his neck. But it was too late, and Banner's arms were limp. At this time, a group of fully armed people rushed in with guns through the broken window. Leading the way was Banner's old rival Emil Blonsky. He grabbed Banner's neck fiercely and roared, "Come on, transform quickly, and let's fight it out." But Banner had been poisoned and was unconscious at the moment, unable to talk to Emil Blonsky at all. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 353, Hate Appears. Emil Blonsky was in a very bad mood at the moment. He wanted to duel with the Hulk Banner and defeat him fairly. Although he knew that he might not be his opponent, his anger had burned his reason. Just like losing in a row in the ranking game, he had to play again after losing. But at this moment, the opponent was hanging up in the fountain. Emil Blonsky had a lot of anger, but he had nowhere to vent. If it weren't for the fact that Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross had to live, Emil Blonsky would have killed Banner directly at this moment. Take him away. There was also a reason for not killing Banner. That is, Emil Blonsky wanted to kill him fairly. As a man, he couldn't say that he couldn't do it. The unconscious Banner was taken away like this, with ordinary handcuffs on his wrists. Perhaps the movie didn't consider too many details. The same is true here. If Banner wakes up, can this small silver bracelet trap the Hulk? Betty Ross looked very ugly. She did not expect her father's troops to be so shameless and launch a sneak attack. But now for Banner's safety, she couldn't provoke them. Because of the failure of the first 2 captures, most of the capturers were very angry with Banner. It was obviously irrational to provoke them at this time. I want to be with you too. Betty Ross has a special identity. She is the daughter of Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross. It is not easy for everyone to attack her. They can only ask the Lieutenant General for his opinion. Finally, the upper level nodded in agreement. The unconscious Banner and his girlfriend Betty Ross got on the plane together. Miss Hermione hesitated a little. Should she go to the plane with them or stay and continue to eat melons? In the end, Hermione chose to stay and dropped a door key on the plane. With the door key, Miss Hermione can teleport at any time with magic and will not miss the wonderful moments. Emil Blonsky originally planned to leave, but when he saw everything in the laboratory, he immediately became evil and shot his teammate to death. He grabbed Mr. Land's collar, and the power of the super soldier serum in his body made him grab the other person as easily as grabbing a chicken. "Don't kill me, don't kill me." Mr. Land was very scared. The man in front of him was too fierce and he was afraid that his life would be in danger. Emil Blonsky asked, "What's the matter with the blood here?" Mr. Land answered honestly, not daring to hide anything. Emil Blonsky was a little surprised when he heard it. "Do you have information about Banner's gamma-ray mutation? This is Banner's blood?" Knowing that the person in front of him should be a scientist, Emil Blonsky became more excited. What he wanted was to fight the Hulk in an upright manner. It was not his style to win by sneaking. Moreover, deep in his heart, he still longed to become an invincible strong man. Although he didn't want to bear it, he really envied Banner. He didn't understand that Banner had such an invincible power, but still wanted to become an ordinary person. Fool, just for a woman? Sure enough, women would only hinder the path of the strong. Emil Blonsky had a bold idea in his heart. "Now, immediately, inject the serum that turns into the Hulk into my body. I want to integrate this power." Mr. Land said cautiously, This may be very dangerous. No one has ever tried it before." Having said that, Mr. Land's evil heart began to awaken. He had never used Banner's blood to experiment on humans before, because as a scientist, he still had a bottom line that could not be crossed. But today, this bottom line seems to be broken. "If you don't cooperate, you will die. I give you 3 seconds to choose." Just after firing a bullet, The muzzle was still hot, and it was against Mr. Lan's head. As long as Emil Bronsky pulled the trigger, Mr. Lan's head would bloom directly in an instant. Miss Hermione, as a god, can reverse time and space and change everything, but she will definitely not save Mr. Lan. Okay, I will cooperate immediately. Being afraid of death is one aspect, and the most important thing is that Mr. Lan also wants to know if he can succeed. He is a crazy scientist with a different mentality from normal people. In this way, the two of them colluded and began a tense and exciting cooperation. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross cared little about Emil Bronsky, and this time was no exception, because in the mind of the Lieutenant General, the Hulk banner was the perfect work of art in his mind. Emil Bronsky was not, he was at most a defective product. So Emil Bronsky did not return to the team for a long time, and the Lieutenant General did not care, but looked at Banner, who was still in a coma, in front of him with ecstasy. Finally, I caught you, Dad. You can't do this. Betty Ross was also on the side. She had to stop her father. Don't call me Dad. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross pointed his finger at Betty Ross and said disappointedly, I don't have a daughter like you. Banner just wants to be an ordinary person. Why don't you let him go? Betty Ross burst into tears. As an ordinary woman, unarmed, the only thing she could use to resist was tears. Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross should have only this one daughter. Even if he speaks ruthlessly, blood is thicker than water, and he is still not completely immune to his daughter's tears. This is a military secret. You know nothing. At this time, Emil Bronsky was already lying in the laboratory. Mr. Lan looked at the instrument in front of him. As long as he added some seasoning to the medicine that Emil Bronsky was injected with, the crazy warrior in front of him would die. Mr. Lan had such an opportunity, but he didn't want to do it. After just experimenting with the Hulk, he could do more exciting experiments at this time. This was too happy for Dr. Evil. He began to inject Banner's serum into Emil Bronsky's body and said, this may hurt a little. Emil Bronsky could bear the pain of his body the most, but he could not bear the insult of his soul. He was defeated by the Hulk twice. This kind of insult of a loser is 100 times and 1,000 times stronger than the pain of his body. Where you fall, you must stand up. Blood is magical. Iron Man, who studies technology, never has blood mutation. Of course, Miss Hermione may be a turning point where everything is possible. Emil Bronsky began to roar in a way that was not human. The sound was so loud that it shattered the glass containers in the laboratory. Then, Emil Bronsky's body began to mutate. His human body contained two mutant serums at the same time, which were perfectly fused and mutated again. Although the Hulk's body became larger and his skin glowed green, he could still be seen as a giant. Emil Bronsky's transformation was much more terrifying. His mutated existence could no longer be seen as a human, but like a ferocious monster. He had become one of the villains in the Marvel world, Abomination. Boom. Breaking free from his restraints in an instant, Abomination transformed into a ferocious monster, directly smashed through the concrete wall, and jumped directly from several floors. Boom. A hole was smashed into the hard ground, but the hatred was intact. The surrounding cars were torn apart and pushed away by the hatred like toys. Chapter 354, The Superhero Falls from the Sky. Miss Hermione watched all this quietly. Although she could have stopped all this from happening at the source, it was not necessary. God is just a bystander most of the time. In reality, have you ever seen God appear to save the people? However, God can change the fate of some small people. For example, when Emil Bronsky transformed into the huge Abomination, he destroyed countless buildings and vehicles along the way, causing great suffering to all living beings. At this point, we can see the difference between Abomination and the Hulk. Although the Hulk is invincible, his only belief is that he does not want to hurt ordinary people. He only wants to escape. But Abomination is different. After he has gained or even surpassed the power of the Hulk, he only wants to destroy everything that ordinary humans could not destroy. Buildings, vehicles, and human lives have all become ants in his eyes at this moment. Humans will not worry about being sad because they step on dozens of ants with one foot, and Abomination will not be sad at this moment. He also stands in the perspective of God. However, his behavior is not that of God, but of a demon. Miss Hermione began to decide to rescue the child based on the system options. That's right, God's bottom line is children, because in the movie, these unlucky ordinary people can't escape bad luck and will eventually die because of the war. What Hermione, the God, can do is to save innocent children. She put on the magneto bracelet, raised her hand, and the metal parts of the car turned into a shield, completely wrapping a child inside. After the war, the steel ball was opened like a flower, and the child inside was at most just a superficial injury. Congratulations on completing the optional task. Reward basic attribute +1. Hermione's actions are not only based on human morality, but also on interests. In order to prevent more innocent people from dying tragically on the streets, Hermione chose a new task and let the Hulk join the battlefield. In order to prevent Hermione from taking action, the system did not have any option among the 3 options for Hermione to take action. In fact, after traveling through Marvel and seeing too much blood and corpses in war, Miss Hermione has become numb. She is not a saint, and she doesn't have that much sympathy. Saving the child is already her greatest output as a good person. After all, the butterfly effect here is terrible. Most of them are people who have been recorded by the King of Hell and are doomed to die. If Miss Hermione forcibly rescues them, the final retribution may be even more terrible. Even another Marvel protagonist, Iron Man, has died accidentally several times. The fate of these ordinary people may be more tragic than a series of horror movies' Final Destination. Therefore, it is the best result for Miss Hermione not to take action. Of course, if there is no butterfly effect, the result of taking action must be better. But is it possible? The rules of birth, aging, illness and death are not something that Miss Hermione can change personally. This is a fight against heaven, and Miss Hermione will eventually bear a terrible fate. Therefore, the system option does not allow Hermione to take action personally, which is actually protecting Miss Hermione. Otherwise, when the god of death comes to find her that day, even if Miss Hermione is very strong now, if the god of death really wants to take her away, it is still very easy. On the plane, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross quickly received the message. His subordinates were not idle either. They not only found out that the monster abomination that was wreaking havoc in the city was Emil Blonsky, but also began to besiege the monster. However, Abomination's defensibility was even more terrible than the Hulk. He could crush missiles with his bare hands, and bullets hitting him were no different from raindrops. Even the goddess Hermione envied such a defense ability. If it weren't for the fact that Abomination was so ugly, she would have wanted to inject herself with a few tubes of mutant serum. Mr. Blue got the opportunity to mutate after Abomination left, although he didn't kill Dr. Blue. But Mr. Blue was still knocked down and his scalp was broken, and then the bag of Banner's blood fell on Mr. Blue's head. Mutated blood was like a virus infection. Quickly, Mr. Blue's eyeballs began to mutate, and his head began to become huge, and he no longer looked like a human. Because there was no Incredible Hulk 2 inches, Mr. Blue's sequel came to an abrupt end here. The system options did not explain how to deal with Mr. Blue, and Miss Hermione did not care about him. On the plane, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross was worried. He did not expect that a loyal soldier like Emil Blonsky would eventually go berserk and become an uncontrollable giant monster because of mutation. So, does it mean that the project of using the blood of the Hulk banner to cultivate a team of Hulk warriors has been completely shattered? If such a terrifying mutant soldier is not controlled, the result will be a terrible disaster. The belief that has supported him for many years was shattered by his subordinate Emil Blonsky at this moment. While watching the tragic video from the war zone, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross seemed to have aged many years. His tattered daughter Betty Ross certainly would not miss this opportunity to scold her father at this moment. She immediately mocked, "Dad, is this the result you have been wanting for so many years?" "Shut up." Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross could not refute. He kept watching the video and was extremely irritated. Too powerful, the Abomination had destroyed the city wantonly, but the army had no way to deal with him, and the war continued to spread. At this time, the goddess Hermione teleported over instantly through the door key, but she was naturally invisible. Even if she started to speak, she was shielded by magic, and only Robert Bruce Banner could hear it. Banner, it's your turn to play. As the spokesperson of God, a superhero, go and save the common people and the earth. It's God. Banner was smart and woke up instantly. The anesthetic in the body was purified instantly. Banner knew that Emil Bronsky was the abomination. He became the monster he is today because he injected the blood he gave to Mr. Blue. In other words, Banner also has an unshakable responsibility. If it weren't for his whimsical ideas, if he hadn't trusted Mr. Blue too much, there would be no disaster today. With the encouragement of God, Banner said, "Let me stop him." Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross, who was much older, looked at Banner and hesitated. The Hulk was also a monster. If two monsters were allowed to, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, planes and cannons can't do anything to the abomination, and now there is no other way. Okay, I can let you go, but you have to take down the abomination, and at the same time, try not to hurt civilians. Dad, Betty Ross was very worried. The abomination was too scary, and she was worried that Banner would be in danger. Banner hugged his girlfriend and explained, "I am also responsible for this matter. Now I have let it go. Maybe becoming the Hulk is my destiny." Banner, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross arranged for the pilot to lower the helicopter and let Banner down. Banner shook his head and said, "No, I'll just jump from here." With the protection of the God around him, Banner doesn't have to worry about anything. Well, okay. Time is running out. The hatch opens, and Banner finally kisses his tearful girlfriend Betty Ross goodbye, then jumps and falls directly from the sky. In the original play, Banner didn't transform until he hit the ground. The goddess Hermione here didn't want Banner to be so embarrassed, so she stretched out her hand, and the magic was like a big hand, instantly pinching Banner's heart. The moment he jumped off the plane, Banner's eyes began to change color, and his whole body was filled with terrible power. With a roar, Banner, who turned into the Hulk, handsomely fell from the sky and landed on the ground. As a superhero, he began his first head-on battle with the villain Abomination. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 355, Mange Kyo sharing in contact lenses. Banner, who turned into the Hulk, was a berserker himself, but in order to prevent the suffering of all living beings, he had been avoiding fighting. This was somewhat similar to Hermione at the beginning, but Hermione was unwilling to cause trouble in order to survive. At this moment, Banner could no longer escape, and he had to stand up and do something, as it was more or less related to him. Thank you. Banner understood that it was God who took action at the moment of jumping off the plane, allowing him to instantly stimulate the Hulk blood in his body. God is really omnipotent. Since the appearance of God, although Banner's wish has not been fulfilled, there is one thing that is real. That is, Banner's Hulk state has been evolving, from being enraged and not recognizing his relatives at the beginning, to now having a clear consciousness. Banner's soul is still an ordinary creature, but his body is already a super Gundam. This feeling of driving a super beast is also the first time that Banner is willing to accept it. This feeling is like an ordinary person traveling through a different world and finding that he already has a wife. At first, he couldn't accept it psychologically, but as the story progresses, the relationship heats up, and when he is willing to accept this wife for no reason, he finds that his wife is also very beautiful, gentle and considerate. The Hulk Banner was unwilling to accept that he was the Monster Hulk at the beginning, but now that he can have a clear consciousness, he finds that he is still very powerful. Ordinary people who jump from such a high plane must have turned into meat patties, but he can be intact. Ordinary civilians around are wailing, and they pray in their hearts that a superhero will come to save them. Hulk, he is coming. Boom. Hulk and Abomination. The two monsters collided fiercely. Abomination, as the monster in the final chapter of the movie, also has consciousness. When he saw the Hulk coming, he was excited and his blood surged all over his body. Hulk, I'm waiting for you. Let's have a big fight. Boom. The collision of Abomination is more fierce than a tank. The Hulk is not an opponent at the first encounter. He was directly knocked out and smashed countless cars along the way. In the original drama, The battle between the Hulk banner and the Abomination was very exciting, from the ground to the high-rise building, and finally shot down the plane that Banner's ex-girlfriend and General Thaddeus Ross were on. Of course, this part is for the plot. Miss Hermione was going to eat melons, but the system options popped up quickly. Option 1. Help the Hulk quickly defeat the Abomination. Complete the task and reward the Sharingan contact lens upgrade. Mangekyo Sharingan contact lens. Option 2. Use magic to shrink the Hulk and let him be defeated by the Abomination. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Villain, +1. Option 3. Stand by and watch. Complete the task and reward a cup of hot milk tea. These 3 options are really interesting. Only option 1 made Miss Hermione excited. She didn't expect that the Sharingan contact lens could be upgraded. This of course also successfully aroused her reason for action. Wearing the Magneto bracelet on her snow-white wrist, Miss Hermione took action, and the minerals in the Abomination were instantly controlled and flew out of the body. Ah! The Abomination screamed. His whole body was covered in blood, and he was in such a miserable state. Banner Hulk did not expect that. God was so terrible. However, now is not the time to be dazed. The opportunity cannot be missed. Banner fell from the sky and aimed at the head of the Abomination, and it was a heavy blow. In fact, when the goddess Hermione made a move, the Abomination had already lost. The dimensionality reduction attack was too terrible. Even when the Abomination was knocked to the ground, he didn't know who was secretly attacking him. He even thought that his body mutation reached the 0 point. And then there were side effects and he collapsed directly. He didn't know that it was God who made the move. Banner Hulk knew that he had knocked down the Abomination with the last blow. Congratulations on completing the option 1 task, and reward 1 pair of Mangekyo Sharingan contact lenses. Hermione was naturally very happy. She didn't say hello to Robert Bruce Banner, and disappeared here directly, and came to the depths of an empty mountain jungle. Taking out the upgraded contact lenses, the original Sharingan contact lenses have disappeared, replaced by the Mangekyo Sharingan contact lenses. Hermione couldn't wait to put them on, and instantly felt different. After her eyeballs and contact lenses fit together, a strong and surging force surged in. The magic power in Hermione's body turned into chakra at this moment, providing energy for the Mangekyo Sharingan. At this moment, the strange patterns in Hermione's eyes began to rotate, and blood flowed out. This is not Miss Hermione's blood, but the function of the contact lenses. It is a ritual when using the Mangekyo Sharingan's ultimate move, Susanoo. Miss Hermione's body began to have strange energy fluctuations, and then turn from nothingness into a solid entity. A huge skull wrapped around Miss Hermione's body. With a wave of her hand, it was like a 40-meter-long machete whizzing past, and all the trees in the forest in front were cut off. Then Hermione squinted one eye, and instantly the black flame burned out, and there was a black sea of fire directly in front of her. The temperature of the flame was very high, which directly caused the surrounding climate to change. Then it started to rain heavily, but the rain could not extinguish the terrifying hot black flame. Miss Hermione wanted to try the Mangekyo Sharingan technique with her other eye, but she found that the magic power in her body was consumed too much and she couldn't hold on. It's not that she couldn't continue to use the big move, but Hermione, who was cautious in doing things, didn't want to make herself too embarrassed, and it was best to leave room for everything, so she immediately put away her magical power. I will show it next time. I have to say that the Mangekyo Sharingan contact lens is really awesome. Under the state of Susanoo, it can fight against the Hulk, but Miss Hermione feels that she is a magician. Unless there are special circumstances, she should not use this move, which consumes too much magic power. No wonder in the original Naruto, every time the high-level ninja used Susanoo, it seemed like he was exhausted. It seems that Ms. Hermione needs to catch a few tailed beasts and seal them in her body, so that she doesn't have to worry about the problem of insufficient chakra. Miss Hermione has accumulated quite a few attribute points over the years, but she likes to develop in an all-round way, so she has spread her attribute points too much. In fact, Her magic power growth is not enough to squander the ultimate move like Susanoo. It's a bit flashy. Miss Hermione took off her Mangekyo Sharingan. It's more effective to use the Magneto bracelet when fighting enemies normally, and it doesn't consume much. It's better to use the Mangekyo Sharingan contact lens when it's a special occasion. Anyway, no matter how many treasures there are, Miss Hermione will never have too many. Back to the battlefield again. The situation here has been almost cleaned up. The abomination was captured, but he is not dead. It seems that the military still wants to continue researching him, but this time they will definitely learn a lesson and will not be so radical again. Hermione used magic to restore the injuries of several children. The disaster came too suddenly. Although some children's lives were saved, their arms and legs were broken. Modern medicine can also cure them, but they will be disabled and have sequelae. Miss Hermione's magic is much better. Magic is not scientific. It can bring life and death to life, and flesh and bones to death. Hermione then went to see the Hulk and helped him quickly recover into an ordinary person. Then Miss Hermione traveled through time and left the Marvel world. Chapter 356, Hogwarts Most Popular Witch. Back to Hogwarts. This business trip took a while. Miss Hermione needs to recall it. I remember that Hermione went to see the dragon with Harry last night. After getting used to being invisible as a god in Marvel, Hermione always couldn't help wanting to be invisible in Hogwarts, because invisibility and flying are so useful. Flying can shorten the distance, quickly cross obstacles, and be more elegant and chic. Not to mention invisibility. No matter what it is, you can do it secretly. Even if Miss Hermione has done a lot of things in Marvel, she doesn't have to worry about being discovered by others. After returning to Hogwarts, Miss Hermione has to adapt to walking on her feet and be a beautiful girl wizard that everyone can see. In the morning, go to the Great Hall for dinner. There are no system option tasks during this period, and Miss Hermione is also happy to be free. After experiencing exciting battles in the Marvel world, it is also good to come back to Hogwarts to enjoy a leisurely time. However, because Miss Hermione is so beautiful, she is also very popular in Hogwarts, and naturally she is liked by many male wizards. Many boys even thought about where to bury them after seeing the beautiful Miss Hermione for the first time. Naturally, she received a lot of love letters. While Hermione was enjoying the treatment that a beautiful witch deserved, Harry Potter was attacked by the whole school in the morning. Malfoy, who was stirring up trouble, actually made a rotating round sign with Cedric will win written on the front, but as long as you click it, it will be a paragraph of abuse against Harry Potter. Potter stinks. Malfoy is still very capable in stirring up trouble. Such an interesting magic sign is naturally very popular. Malfoy is not short of money. He just wants to disgust Harry Potter. He doesn't charge a penny, and anyone who wants can wear it. So when Harry Potter woke up, he saw that the whole school was full of malice towards him. In addition to Malfoy's instigation, the biggest reason for Harry to suffer this kind of violence was that he was less than 17 years old, but he could become a champion of the Triwizard Tournament. And for many years, the Goblet of Fire would only select 3 champions. Harry Potter is special. Although he is not old enough, he can become the 4th warrior in the competition in public. This will naturally make many law-abiding wizards dissatisfied. On the way to class, the wizard students all laughed at him. Potter is so stinky in the corridor. Groups of students wearing wizard school uniforms. If they take off the wizard school uniforms, they look more like a group of street urchins, not like students at all. Because well-behaved students who don't cause trouble will not show up here to laugh at Harry, and those who dare to laugh at Harry head-on are not honest students. Cedric must win. Do you like this badge? Maybe Harry Potter was too famous and dazzling in the past 2 years, and people's hearts are sinister. Now that Harry Potter's reputation is bad, these people want to come and step on him. The ugliness of human nature is normal. Please get out of the way. Harry treated the 2 wizards in front of him who were looking for trouble with indifference. Harry would not be angry because of this little thing. If Harry Potter got angry, then these people who were waiting to see the joke would definitely be happier. Harry is not stupid, so he won't let them succeed. Time may cover up the truth of the supporting characters, but Harry Potter is the protagonist, and time will definitely tell these fools the real answer. Harry Potter was not in a hurry. Look at what is written on the badge. Hey, we are talking to you. Give us some reaction, you rude guy. Harry Potter snorted coldly. He went straight to a handsome man. He did not wear the badge that Malfoy made to insult Harry Potter, but his friends who were talking and laughing around him all wore it. Can you talk to me for a few words? Harry said to the man. This man was Cedric, the real warrior of Hogwarts. Cedric was a little embarrassed at the moment. He did not expect Harry Potter to come to him suddenly, but he still answered politely, "Yes, Potter, you stink." Cedric's friends were not so polite and mocked him directly from behind. Harry ignored them and took Cedric to the side with fewer people. Harry said seriously, "Dragon fighting is the first event, and everyone has a dragon." Cedric was stunned. He had to think for a while before he understood what Harry Potter meant by this sudden remark. The rude friend behind him called out, "Let's go." Are you kidding? Cedric certainly wouldn't pay attention to his friends at this time, and he asked Harry in confusion. Harry nodded seriously. At this moment, on the other side of the trees, in a house, Mad-Eye Moody was peeking, and he was always paying attention to Harry Potter. At the same time, Miss Hermione also came because of today's task. Along the way, how much ridicule Harry Potter suffered, Miss Hermione also received as many admiring eyes. Too beautiful, Miss Hermione is like an elf on earth. The sun shines on her white and rosy skin, as if it is glowing. Her beautiful facial features, even the gentleman who is best at painting beauties in the world can't describe it. And her charming figure, and the fairy temperament that is admired by all alone. So, do Fleur and Crumb know about it too? Cedric asked. Harry nodded, thinking of Hagrid's date with the giant headmistress last night. I know. Let's go. Ignore him. Cedric's friends finally got impatient. They didn't want to see Cedric, as a true warrior of Hogwarts, staying with Harry Potter, a cheating villain, for a long time. Listen, I said not to wear those badges, but Cedric explained about the badges. It doesn't matter. Harry was very generous. Living under someone else's roof since childhood, Harry, who had been tempered by the hard times, had a steel-like will. Most people, with weak psychological endurance, would probably be tortured by the rumors and verbal violence all over the campus. They might even want to die to show their determination. But Harry Potter wouldn't. When he was a baby, facing the terrible Voldemort, it was a miracle that he could survive. This predicament was nothing at all. He didn't care what others thought of him. The Harry Potter here was even stronger than in the original drama and movie. At least the most popular beauty in the school, Miss Hermione, stood by Harry from beginning to end. Just like Sun Wukong beside Tang Seng. Although for Sun Wukong, going to the west to obtain the scriptures is a simple matter of a few somersaults. But he walked to accompany Tang Seng all the time. Similarly, as a god, with her current ability, it is relatively easy for Miss Hermione to change the rules, whether it is Marvel or Hogwarts. But Iron Man, Hulk and Harry Potter, they are just like Tang Seng, 9,981 difficulties. They must go through it themselves. Hermione can help them solve small problems, but will not directly take them to the end of the journey. But even so, the simple companionship and unwavering trust, the warmth that Miss Hermione brings to Harry Potter's heart, is indescribable. Therefore, the rumors and ridicules from the outside world are useless attacks to Harry at this moment. Malfoy seemed to be unable to get used to Harry Potter's calm appearance, and he planned to take action himself. He sat on a big tree on the road that Harry Potter must pass, and looked down at Harry below with a condescending look. The words mocked, "Harry Potter is a big liar. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone." Chapter 357 Moody's highlight moment. Malfoy started to do something stupid again. Didn't he know that Harry Potter was the hero? How could someone who went against the hero have a good ending? Don't be so nervous, Potter. Malfoy sat on the tree. His posture was not very charming and he said, "I made a bet with my dad. I said you can't last 10 minutes on the field." Malfoy jumped down as he spoke. This year, he seemed to be more powerful. There were actually 4 lackeys behind him, and there were only 2 before. Malfoy approached Harry and mocked himself. Dad disagrees. He said you can't last 5 minutes. I don't care what your dad thinks, Malfoy. He is fierce and vicious, and you are a poor wretch. Harry Potter was not to be outdone, and took the initiative to approach Malfoy, without any stage fright in his voice. Harry Potter's momentum alone was no worse than that of the other 4 or 5 people. Poor wretch. This title was very unpopular with Malfoy, and he couldn't take a joke. In life, there will always be such people. He made a sign insulting Harry Potter, and made Harry Potter suffer countless abuses and violence from his classmates. He thought it was normal, as long as the other party said a few words to him. He couldn't stand it. Malfoy took out his wand angrily, and seemed to be planning to attack Harry Potter. This kid has grown up. He didn't have the courage before, but the situation at Hogwarts this year is obviously different. There is a new teacher, Mad-Eye Moody. He just secretly watched Harry. Now he knows that it's time for him to go on stage. Just like rehearsing in advance, Mad-Eye Moody's timing is very good. Don't mess around, kid. Mad-Eye Moody jumped out. He looked ferocious and looked like an old man. Malfoy, a young man, naturally couldn't compare. Mad-Eye Moody said that he wouldn't let Malfoy mess around, but in fact, he was the madman. He raised his hand quickly, and the magic on the wand went directly. Malfoy was terrified. Students are naturally afraid of teachers, not to mention Mad-Eye Moody. Mad-Eye Moody would not show mercy. The magic quickly wrapped Malfoy's body, and then directly turned Malfoy into a white furry little animal. Don't mention it. It's quite cute. I'll teach you how to cast magic behind someone's back, you bug, you coward, scum, Mad-Eye Moody said rudely. And then the scene of evildoers needing evildoers to fight was staged. Mad-Eye Moody controlled the wand in his hand, constantly moving it up and down, like a music conductor. Malfoy, who was controlled by magic, was miserable. Not only was he turned into a small animal in public, but he was also rolling up and down involuntarily at this moment, which was extremely embarrassing and funny. Miss Hermione came. She was not invisible, but her own, low-key, attribute played an extremely important role in the scene at this moment. Because Mad-Eye Moody took action at the scene, everyone's eyes were on the incident of Moody teaching Malfoy a lesson. Even if Miss Hermione, who came, was as beautiful as a fairy, no one would pay too much attention to her. It's like, the clouds on the horizon are particularly beautiful, but most people passing by didn't notice it, because the clouds are too low-key. A dialogue box popped up in front of Ms. Hermione. Option 1, help Malfoy, and turn Mad-Eye Moody into a small ant. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with the exclusive attribute, Magic, +1. Option 2, all those watching the excitement are guilty. As a god, use the most powerful forbidden magic to open the evil magic circle and turn all of them into ugly monsters. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with the exclusive attribute, Arrogance, +1. Option 3, eat watermelons quietly, don't make any noise, and complete the task and you will be rewarded with 1 sweet watermelon. Undoubtedly, the reward for option 3 is the lightest, but it can't beat Miss Hermione's love. Option 1 turned Mad-Eye Moody into an ant. Just kidding. If Miss Hermione really did this, wouldn't she be directly exposed? Option 2 is more terrifying, although it is really cool to turn these dishonest students into ugly monsters. Because good students won't block here to watch Harry Potter's jokes, turning them into ugly monsters is what they deserve. However, it feels good to do it. But how to end it next? It's like fighting is fun, you get your temper out, but how to solve the mess? If you win, you lose money, and if you lose, you go to the hospital. Besides, Miss Hermione is just a bystander. She really doesn't need to make a fuss over such a small matter. There are too many unfair things in the world, and too many stupid and ignorant people. Is she going to care about them all? If she has the time, she can just quietly eat the refreshing and sweet watermelon. Isn't it nice? Professor Moody. Professor McGonagall also rushed over on time. Seeing the scene in front of her, she was very troubled. Trying to plot against you, you little brat. Mad-Eye Moody was still scolding Malfoy, who had been turned into an animal. What are you doing? Professor McGonagall questioned Mad-Eye Moody. Teach him. Mad-Eye Moody didn't even look at Professor McGonagall, and continued to use magic to control the little animal to roll up and down. Professor McGonagall's face changed. She asked, "Is that a student? It should be a ferret." Mad-Eye Moody was still joking. Mad-Eye turned back and looked at Harry. Harry understood that Mad-Eye Moody was helping him vent his anger, which really made people feel comfortable. Harry couldn't help laughing. Professor McGonagall saw that Mad-Eye Moody was completely perfunctory and did not intend to ask verbally anymore. She took out her wand directly. After a spell, the magic flew to the tortured animal that was almost crazy, and Malfoy was instantly changed back to his original state. Malfoy was terrified and looked very bad. He looked at Mad-Eye Moody with anger and timidity, and threatened, "I will tell my father." However, Mad-Eye Moody was not a vegetarian. Before Malfoy finished speaking, he roared in a voice louder than Malfoy, "Trying to threaten me." Moody not only roared, he picked up the cane in his hand and wanted to hit people. He is really a madman. Professor Moody. Professor McGonagall couldn't stand it anymore. Her voice also revealed that her patience had reached the limit. As the new defense against the dark arts professor, she violated school rules and used magic to punish students in public. Now she was reported by students and wanted to retaliate. It was simply lawless. "Trying to threaten me." Mad-Eye Moody didn't take Professor McGonagall's words to heart at all. He continued to chase Malfoy around the tree like the king of kin circling the pillar, and raised his cane to hit Malfoy. Professor McGonagall finally couldn't bear it anymore and roared, "I'll tell you about your father. Anyway, I won't pay for your life even if I scare you to death, kid." Mad-Eye Moody was really determined and continued to do what he wanted. Alistair. Professor McGonagall was really angry and called Mad-Eye Moody by name. Mad-Eye Moody knew that he should stop. If he continued, Professor McGonagall would probably fight him, which would be too ugly. "I'm not done with you." Mad-Eye Moody stopped chasing Malfoy, but threatened, which made Malfoy's heart beat. "Alistair, we never use transfiguration spells to punish students here. Dumbledore must have told you." Professor McGonagall was full of anger, but she couldn't be as shameless as Mad-Eye Moody, so she could only bear it and talk about reason. "He did mention it." Mad-Eye Moody seemed to be really honest. "Then you must keep it in mind, and go back." Professor McGonagall saw that Mad-Eye Moody was not sincere in admitting his mistake, but she had no choice but to disperse the students who were watching the fun and then left. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 The Mysterious Special Box. Malfoy was extremely unlucky today. He wanted to bring his little brother to humiliate Harry Potter in public, but he never expected that Mad-Eye Moody would suddenly appear. This old madman did not follow the rules at all. He just came up and punished the students in public. Even though Professor McGonagall came out to stop him in the end, the crime Malfoy suffered in the face he was humiliated could not be recovered. Malfoy didn't know when he offended such a madman, but this madman also targeted him, which made Malfoy even afraid and dared not provoke him. Even if he was bullied by Mad-Eye Moody, Malfoy did not dare to retaliate, because he was afraid that Mad-Eye Moody would retaliate 100 times or 1,000 times more crazily. Professor McGonagall also left angrily. Mad-Eye Moody really had a personality. He was already a big man, but he made faces behind Professor McGonagall's back, with an attitude of "I will mess up next time if I am not convinced." Harry Potter, who was standing by, also saw the new teacher's arrogance. Moody picked up the crutches that fell on the ground and began to pretend to be serious and said to Harry, "You, follow me." The students around him saw how terrible Mad-Eye Moody was. They didn't even dare to look at him, fearing that this madman would suddenly go crazy and come after them, which would be a terrible result. The Mad-Eye Moody here is fake. He is Voldemort's subordinate. But it must be said that even as a villain, he just stood up for Harry Potter, which was really brilliant. This kind of partiality without distinguishing right from wrong is very charming. Harry Potter nodded both emotionally and rationally, and followed Mad-Eye Moody into his office. It was Harry Potter's first time in Mad-Eye Moody's office. It was very messy and the hut was simple, but there were a lot of messy things placed inside, especially a lot of special mirrors. Mad-Eye Moody sat down and took off his artificial leg rudely, which seemed to make him relax, although his behavior was very strange. Because normal people may take off their shoes when they sit down, but few people will directly take off one of their legs and put it on the table. Harry Potter seemed to be watching everything in the room, especially the special mirror in front of Mad-Eye Moody at this moment. That is a magic mirror. I can monitor my enemies. If I see the whites of their eyes, they are very close. Mad-Eye Moody explained in this way, which made people hard to understand. Most wizards speak in a mysterious way. At this time, a large box on the side suddenly made a loud noise, and even people shouted from inside. Harry, who was already a little nervous, was startled. I won't tell you what's inside. You won't believe it even if I tell you. Well, how are you going to deal with the dragon? Mad-Eye Moody was very good at changing the subject, because the big box that made the loud noise contained his important secret. This secret may only be known by Miss Hermione. At this moment, Miss Hermione came in stealthily. It was not very good to eavesdrop on other people's conversations, but there was no other way for the mission. Because of the abnormality of the big box, a dialogue box popped up in front of her. Option 1. Expose Mad-Eye Moody in public and tell Harry Potter that the real Mad-Eye Moody is actually locked in the big box, and the one outside is fake. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, Truth, +1. Option 2. There is no need to make the truth so clear, just kill the fake Mad-Eye Moody directly. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, Decisiveness, +1. Option 3. I won't say anything, I won't do anything, I'll just watch and join in the fun. Complete the task and get the basic attribute +1. This time option 3 is not bad. Watching the fun can get the basic attribute +1, it's simply the conscience of the system. But option 1 is also interesting, which makes Ms. Hermione think of some questions. Why didn't the fake Moody kill the real Moody directly? Instead, he put him in the magic box and kept him company day and night. Is there any perverted idea in his heart? Hermione didn't know. After all, this fake Moody himself was not a normal person. It is unscientific to speculate about a psychopath with the thinking of a normal person. Option 2 is ruthless, but if Hermione really wants to kill the fake Moody, why wait until now? After the opening ceremony, Hermione could have taken action as soon as the fake Mad-Eye Moody appeared, but there is no need. The fake Moody plays an important role in promoting the following plot. Only if he is alive can the exciting story in the future be more complete. If he dies, Voldemort may start a new plan. On Harry Potter's side, he didn't know that the invisible Hermione was next to him, and he didn't actually care about the special big box, because the thinking of a normal person would not think that there was a living person hidden in the box, and it was the real Mad-Eye Moody. Actually, I think Harry began to think about how to answer the fake Moody's question. He actually didn't think about how to deal with the next Triwizard Tournament. Sit down. Mad-Eye Moody seemed very satisfied with Harry Potter's answer. That's right, Harry Potter had no way out, which highlighted the role of Mad-Eye Moody. Otherwise, Harry Potter is a genius, making plans and winning battles from afar, so there would be no need for fake Moody. Listen to me, Potter. Your friend Diggory, at your age, can turn a whistle into a watch, a singing watch. Fake Moody really did his homework. He knew everything very well. He only missed the most terrifying, scary, beautiful and mysterious Miss Hermione Granger. Miss Granger is beautiful and low-key, and she is not a warrior contestant in the Triwizard Tournament, so Mad-Eye Moody naturally would not study her specifically. Miss Delacroix, she is not just a little princess who can act like a spoiled child. As for Krum, he has strong limbs and a simple mind, but Karkaroff is very smart. They will have strategies, and it is certain that they will use Krum's strengths. Come on, Potter, what are your strengths? Mad-Eye Moody analyzed the characteristics of each of Harry Potter's competitors in the next Triwizard Tournament one by one. I don't know. Harry was of course a little confused at this moment, because he was also a warrior contestant in the Triwizard Tournament, and it happened too suddenly. In addition, No one told him what the previous competitions were like, so Harry Potter was completely unprepared. But he thought for a moment and said, "I can fly, and I fly pretty well, but I know, I fly very well." Mad-Eye Moody showed an expression that said, "I know you very well." Then Mad-Eye Moody smiled strangely and said, "Harry, you are not allowed to use a broom in the competition, but you are not allowed to use a wand." Mad-Eye Moody was indeed quietly telling Harry Potter some shortcuts. Miss Hermione was hiding aside, not feeling that there was any exciting plot between Mad-Eye Moody and Harry Potter at the moment. She just felt that it was bland. Not as exciting as Mad-Eye Moody chasing Malfoy and beating him just now. Sure enough, most of human happiness is built on the pain of others. Humans are really bad creatures. Harry Potter left Mad-Eye Moody's office, and he would also think carefully about the news that Moody revealed to him. Of course he didn't know that the beautiful Miss Hermione had been by his side the whole time, but she did almost nothing today. She was becoming more and more like a high and mighty god. She was always there, but she just didn't do anything. However, Miss Hermione was also very busy. Harry Potter had just finished watching the show and eating melons, and in the Marvel Universe, the story of Iron Man 2 Inches had begun. It would be very exciting, and Miss Hermione would come again as the savior, even if it was just to go there for a sense of participation. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 359 Iron Man Story. Tony Stark, the Marvel Iron Man, is holding a grand and unique Stark Expo. In the middle of the stage, there are beautiful girls dancing in cool clothes, hot bodies and full of dynamics. And below the stage, there are naturally celebrities from all over the world. Tony Stark, dressed in a sexy Iron Man outfit, fell from the sky and posed in a handsome pose when he landed. Tony is not a low-key person, but he has a certain purpose for being so sensational tonight. For the company's stock price, the hotter the hype, the more attention it receives, and the company's stock will inevitably rise. Although Tony Stark focuses on the field of scientific research, he is born with a lot of knowledge about doing business. The goddess Hermione Granger, who came from Hogwarts, looked at Tony Stark, who was giving a sexy speech on the stage. On the huge screen above, Tony Stark played a video of his father, which directly ignited the atmosphere on the scene. This is the city of the future. Miss Hermione was not here to watch Tony Stark perform on stage, at least not according to the system options. Option 1. Use magic to make Tony Stark, the Iron Man, on stage, look ridiculous. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, funny, +1. Option 2. Detonate the bomb and let all the audience die in the sea of fire. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, villain, +1. Option 3. Go see Tony Stark's nemesis in Iron Man 2 Inches. Complete the task and get the basic attribute +1. It seems that there is no way to stay here and watch the show. Miss Hermione did not hesitate. Although option 1 was quite simple compared to option 2, it would be Iron Man Tony Stark who would look ridiculous anyway, and it had nothing to do with Miss Hermione Granger. However, Hermione did not want the task reward. Although she had the bad habit of adding attribute points randomly, she did not add all attribute points. She usually added some useful attribute points. At present, all the attribute points added by Miss Hermione are Magic +85, Health +72, Low-Key +65, Agility +75, Defense +72, Strength +68, Stealth +63, Pretty +9, Charm +9, Figure +9, Skin +9, Wisdom +9, Gentleness +1, Soul +1, Optimism +1, Teasing +2, Good Guy +1, Painter +1, Performance +1, Decisiveness +1, Silence +1, Quietness +1. It can be seen that, except for the exclusive attribute rewards at the back, the attributes added by the front are very useful. Hermione sat on the flying broom, put on the invisibility cloak, and started to hurry. Miss Hermione's speed was very fast, and she didn't worry about the traffic problems on the road at all. However, because she didn't leave the door key at the Iron Man opponent in advance, Miss Hermione's journey was still delayed for a lot of time. However, because there were road signs for the task. Miss Hermione didn't have to worry about going the wrong way. Iron Man's opponent looked much more desolate. The Stark Expo site was not as warm and beautiful as spring, but it was not as cold and snowy as before. Ivan Vanko was born in this cold place. The streets around were also quite ordinary, because of the cold. There were not many pedestrians on the road. The hut where Ivan Vanko lived was also relatively simple. An old man who looked a little desolate was watching the report on TV before his death. The picture in the report was that Iron Man held his Stark Expo. The old man's dry fingers were clasped tightly, and there was anger on his old face. Shameless robber. The old man cursed Tony Stark on TV and finally died unwillingly. This old man was Ivan Vanko's father. The reason why he hated Iron Man Tony Stark was that Tony Stark's father expelled their family from the country. The old man ended up wandering all his life, depressed in his later years, and now he passed away with a curse. And the contribution that the old man made to Stark Company was to research the arc reactor together. Therefore, the arc reactor technology of Iron Man Tony Stark is not top secret, at least for now. Ivan Vanko, the son of the old man, can also manufacture it in a simple laboratory. Ah! Ivan Vanko screamed in pain. He had a bad life and was arrested and imprisoned for many years. Now seeing Tony Stark's family so prosperous and them so miserable, the seeds of hatred finally sprouted. He will launch crazy revenge on Tony Stark and his future life. When the goddess Hermione arrived, the old man just died. Hermione and the old man were of course not familiar with each other. Besides, Hermione was not a saint, and she had no obligation to save the old man. Besides, birth, aging, illness and death are common to all people. The old man is old and his time is coming. Now his death is also the law of nature. However, a dialogue box popped up in front of Hermione. Option 1. Use magic to revive the old man. As long as the old man is still alive, Ivan Vanko's hatred will not reach the level of revenge on Iron Man. Complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, Saint, +1. Option 2. What saint? Kill Ivan Vanko and his son directly on the spot, eradicate the roots, and put an end to it all. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, Vicious, +1. Option 3. I just came to watch the fun, check in, and brush my presents. Completing the task will reward you with the basic attribute +1. I have to say that these three options are quite interesting. Being a saint, hello, me, everyone is happy. Otherwise, just be a ruthless person. What's the point of being a saint? Just kill decisively, eradicate the roots. As long as Ivan Vanko and his son are killed, there is no need to shoot the movie Iron Man 2 inches. It fits the style of the villain. However, Miss Hermione considered the butterfly effect. It would be simple to kill Ivan Vanko herself, but after killing him, there might be more uncontrollable unknown results. Let him continue to act. After all, he is also helpful to the real growth of Iron Man. So the goddess Hermione finally chose to stand by and watch. Ivan Vanko, the son of physicist Anton Vanko, is also a physicist and mechanical engineering genius. After the old man died, he worked hard to develop a micro-arc reactor and power suit on his own. Miss Hermione was watching from the sidelines, not to steal lessons. Hermione was just curious. Why did Ivan Vanko choose to use a whip as a weapon? Was it specially arranged by the director and screenwriter? Wouldn't it be better to invent a reactor bomb directly? Explosion is art. This is the ultimate weapon. The combination of whip weapons and technology is really a bit second year. Of course, Miss Hermione just complained a little, just like when she first rode a flying broom in magic school. She felt that the broom handle was very unfriendly to her buttocks, and it would be much better with a humanized and comfortable bicycle seat. Here, as Iron Man's future opponent Ivan Vanko, if he wants to make an arc whip, Hermione will certainly not meddle in other people's business. Even if he makes an arc hook or an arc mop as a weapon, Miss Hermione will not say a word. Miss Hermione has a tigerfish knife of her own. Perhaps she could add an arc design to increase the destructive power of the knife. Combined with one of Hermione's many skills, sword drawing, the damage would definitely increase explosively. Miss Hermione is a man of action. Once she thinks of something, she immediately convenes a research meeting. Even as a god, Miss Hermione is not proud and complacent. There is no end to learning. She studies hard and keeps learning and making progress. Chapter 360: The Collision of Magic and Technology. Miss Hermione also has her own private laboratory, which is located in the castle at Hogwarts. Time magic and space magic are the subjects Miss Hermione studies, and she has achieved important results. In the Marvel Universe, deep underground in a large desert, there is also Miss Hermione's scientific laboratory. It is brightly lit all year round, and the temperature and comfort are excellent, which is very much like a super shelter in the Doomsday. Of course, Miss Hermione did not come here to seek refuge with the door key. Usually, when she travels through time to do tasks and eat melons, Miss Hermione is not just eating melons. She has learned Iron Man's arc reactor technology and mecha design. This time, I went to the Iron Man 2 villain Ivan Vanko and watched him make a very second-year arc whip. In general martial arts dramas, whips are usually weapons used by female warriors. As a melee witch, Miss Hermione does not like whips as a weapon. It feels soft and not clean enough. Of course, guns and cannons are good for long-range weapons, but in close combat, Hermione prefers to use knives. Hermione took out the tigerfish knife, and then merged the arc reactor technology of Iron Man Tony Stark and the reactor arc technology of Ivan Vanko. Of course, as a witch, Hermione was not enough to use only technology. There must be magic. The first collision of magic and technology, on Miss Hermione's gorgeous experimental table, continued to flash dazzling brilliance, and finally golden light flashed, and the high-frequency arc upgraded version of the tigerfish knife was successfully produced. Good knife. Miss Hermione picked up the knife, watching the dazzling arc quickly flow on the blade, took it outside, and just waved it lightly, and a huge stone was easily cut off. The previous tigerfish knife was only used to chop people or wood, and now the upgraded high-frequency arc tigerfish knife can be used to chop Gundam and tanks. After upgrading her new weapon, Miss Hermione was very happy and felt that her trip was worthwhile. Without rushing back to Hogwarts, Miss Hermione came to Iron Man. Tony Stark was obviously in trouble. Tony, who was backstage at the Stark Expo, looked very bad, completely different from the image of a showman just now. At this moment, he looked at the small tool in his hand that detected blood toxicity. After the test, it showed blood poisoning. The thing that Tony Stark was most worried about still happened. This toxin came from the arc reactor, and the scientific and technological knowledge that Tony Stark currently possessed could not solve this problem. Just like ordinary humans, playing with mobile phones may hurt their eyes and cause myopia, the only way is to go out more and play with mobile phones less. There is currently no way to solve the problem of technological hardware. Tony Stark is facing this situation now. He must research the technology of playing mobile phones to protect the eyes as soon as possible. Otherwise, he will definitely die soon. At this moment, Tony Stark, who was in a lonely mood, formed a sharp contrast with the noisy gongs and drums outside. Behind the glamorous and bright appearance, there are usually unknown sadness, but it is not worth writing about the pity, because ordinary people are sad, and they don't have a bright and beautiful time. Tony Stark thought of a person, to be precise. She is God. Since the last incident, God has disappeared for a long time. Tony Stark knows that God is very busy. She will not come to chat for no reason. She will definitely appear at the most critical moment to save him. If Tony Stark is still the spokesperson chosen by God, if Tony Stark is abandoned by God, then Tony Stark may not see God again until his death. At this moment, Miss Hermione appeared directly in front of Tony Stark. God. Tony looked at the dazzling goddess Hermione. No matter what time it is, the goddess Hermione is so breathtakingly beautiful. Hermione said, "You seem to be in some trouble." Tony Stark raised the small tool in his hand to test the toxicity of blood, and didn't know how to start for a while. After taking a look, Hermione replied, "It's a small problem. At worst, I will personally take you to heaven after you die." Joking about life and death is obviously a bit too much, But Hermione doesn't want to spoil the plot now. She just came here to punch in and complete the task, so naturally such a humorous answer is more reasonable. As expected, Tony Stark was extremely disappointed when he heard such an answer. Even God couldn't do anything. It seemed that he really couldn't escape the disaster this time. You don't have to be overly pessimistic. The future is full of variables and everything is possible. Miss Hermione's comfort still had some effect. Tony Stark was encouraged and nodded. At this time, someone knocked on the door outside. Obviously, there was something important to say. Tony Stark's bodyguard was outside, and his secretary was not around. He opened the door and went out. Tony Stark is worthy of being an old actor. The moment he went out, the gloomy atmosphere caused by the poisoning of his body was swept away, replaced by his signature confidence and suave. That's right, it's the kind of coolness of a rich and smart person. After the introduction, the person who was looking for Tony outside was a beautiful woman. Tony Stark looked her up and down. If his body had not changed, he might have thought about how to have a one-night stand with this beautiful woman. Believe in the power of money. As long as Tony Stark wants, there is almost no woman he can't sleep with. But now, he is obviously much more restrained. The beautiful woman who came also knew Tony Stark's romantic character, but she didn't come to spend time with Tony Stark under the moonlight. She wanted to inform Tony Stark that she would attend a very important hearing. Tony Stark was too busy. He rubbed his forehead with his fingers. If it weren't for the beautiful woman to come and inform him, he would have forgotten that there was a hearing. Those guys who want to get it for free. Tony didn't refuse. He knew that this hearing was very important and escaping would not solve the problem. The best way is to give those greedy guys a heavy blow on the front battlefield. Okay, lead the way. Tony Stark didn't know that. Hermione seemed to be still by his side, but it didn't matter. Tony Stark's intelligence and eloquence were enough to face this hearing. The hearing site was full of people. Celebrities from all walks of life had a high degree of attention to Tony Stark. Of course, this was not the Stark Expo, and not everyone could come in. As the god of the Marvel Universe, it was easy for Ms. Hermione to come in. At the hearing, the person sitting high above demanded that Tony Stark must hand over all the technology of the Iron Man suit, and also continue to provide subsequent maintenance technology unconditionally. Above were military representatives, a bit like the situation when the Invincible Hulk faced the military in the previous movie. Because the Hulk did not have a very high social status, of course, he did not have the opportunity to hold a hearing specifically for him. But Tony Stark did. He was surrounded by his enemies almost everywhere, and he was only surrounded by his trusted honest bodyguards and the beautiful assistant Pepper who had been with him for many years. But Tony Stark was not afraid. He ruthlessly mocked the other party with humorous words and declared that he was the messenger of peace because he mastered the technology of Iron Man armor, while the other party was not. The other party would only use it to start a war and cause great suffering. Very convincing, seeing that Tony Stark was about to win. The military also sent their so-called trump card, Justin Hammer, the new weapons contractor, the big boss of Hammer Advanced Industries, and one of the villains in this story. New book, please support. Thank you everyone. Chapter 361. Everyone is drunk but I'm sober. When Justin Hammer, the boss of Hammer Advanced Industries, appeared, the party against Iron Man immediately seemed to see the dawn of victory. Using magic to defeat magic is undoubtedly what they want most. No one in the world knows arms dealers better than arms dealers. However, the corresponding Iron Man Tony Stark turned a deaf ear and did not feel any threat to Justin Hammer. If Tony Stark knew how to say a joke, he would definitely slam the table and say, "I'm not targeting you, I'm saying that everyone here is garbage." As the leader of the villains, Justin Hammer is naturally very confident. He listed the defects of Iron Man's technology and the terrible consequences of this technology being completely in the hands of a businessman. However, Tony Stark didn't even look at Justin Hammer. He just lowered his head and played with his mobile phone. Tony Stark's mobile phone is very advanced and it is actually transparent. Justin Hammer confidently thought that Tony Stark did not dare to confront him head-on, and he suddenly became more confident. His speech was very exciting, and the people on the platform agreed with him. At this time, the military also invited a Colonel James Rhodes. When James Rhodes walked in, Tony Stark felt a little pressure when he looked at him. Because this is his good friend, he knows a lot of Tony Stark's secrets. If Colonel James Rhodes chooses to betray Tony Stark at this important hearing, the consequences will be extremely unfavorable to Iron Man. When the two looked at each other, Tony Stark could clearly see the embarrassment in Colonel James Rhodes' eyes. Yes, he is a colonel in the Marine Corps. It stands to reason that he should be a member of the military. And of course the interests of the military should be the focus. But Iron Man is not wrong. He was just injured in the last movie, and now he doesn't trust others. The weapon is only safe in his own hands, otherwise it will fall into the hands of the bad guys again, and the consequences will be disastrous. James Rhodes began to speak, and everyone was waiting for his outstanding performance, and even backstabbed his friend Tony Stark on the spot. However, the result made the military very angry, because James Rhodes actually spoke for Iron Man. He also endorsed Iron Man, and he would strictly supervise Iron Man's future behavior and would not let Iron Man become a hidden danger. Good brother, for life. Tony Stark was a little moved, but he just played with his mobile phone not to watch beautiful women dancing, but to do hacking. Tony Stark's computer technology is not something that ordinary people can compete with. In a very short time, he hacked into the opponent Justin Hammer's more advanced industrial system through a high-tech mobile phone, and projected the video of the mechanical code that was secretly researched all over the world directly on the big screen. At that moment, the whole audience was shocked. Look at what Hammer Industries has done that is so outrageous that it is worth trusting. Everyone looked at the tragic experiment, and all of them failed without exception. Just now, Justin Hammer, as a villain, kept saying that Tony Stark's Iron Man technology was dangerous, but they were doing very inhumane research behind the scenes. In a large-scale face-slapping scene, the aggressive military and Hammer Advanced Industries were defeated at the same time, and they were humiliated for a while. This hearing also announced that Iron Man Tony Stark won. Tony Stark used a direct confrontation method to obtain exclusive ownership of all the intellectual property rights of his own Iron Man, but he was supervised by Colonel James Rhodes, which was already very good. Compared with the Hulk who was fleeing everywhere, Iron Man can appear in the public eye with dignity. The military's attempt to own all of Iron Man's technology can only fail. Justin Hammer, as a competitor and villain, was also defeated thoroughly. Their industrial technology is more than 20 years behind Tony Stark. Whether they can catch up in the future is completely unknown. Genius is sometimes too important. Miss Hermione's presence is very low, because in the system options 1, detonate the nuclear bomb and let everyone on the scene go to see the grandmother of the little match girl. 2. Watch the show quietly. 3. Sing and dance on the spot. There is no doubt that the low-key and ladylike Miss Hermione naturally chose to watch the show quietly. In addition, she is in invisible state, so her presence is naturally low. Forget it. It doesn't matter. Miss Hermione's position after crossing Marvel is, God. She can't get along with muggles all day long. How can she still have the status of God? Everyone is drunk and I am sober, which is the highest realm. Although Iron Man Tony Stark won a great victory at the hearing, he was not particularly happy. The happy smile is just his disguise, and his inner depression still makes him unhappy. The most important reason is that when Tony Stark was alone, he took out a small object for poison detection, which showed 24%. In other words, if things continue to develop, Tony Stark will not have much time left. At this moment, even if God is by his side, Tony Stark is facing tremendous pressure to survive. Because of Miss Hermione's participation, Tony Stark has died several times in the previous plot. Will death always accompany him in the future? Tony Stark returned to the company and lost interest in everything in the company. He found his female assistant Pepper Potts and wanted to hand over the company to her. Virginia Pepper Potts knew that the boss was lazy and usually didn't care much about the company's operations except for concentrating on research. But she never thought that Tony Stark would become a hands-off boss. Virginia Pepper Potts of course refused. Tony Stark knew that he might not have much time left. How could he continue to stay in the company to deal with documents that could not be processed every day in his last days? Under Tony Stark's insistence, Pepper Potts had no choice but to agree. After Tony Stark arranged for Pepper Potts, he regretted it again. Because he didn't have many friends around him, he suddenly stopped managing the company, and his life was free, but there was no one to talk to around him. At this time, if Tony Stark went to Pepper Potts again, he would undoubtedly be driven out by the latter. There were too many affairs in the company. Since Pepper Potts decided to take the lead, she would definitely not be as half-hearted as Tony Stark. The beautiful girl focused on her career, and Tony Stark had nothing to do. Since becoming Iron Man, Tony Stark has almost never been a playboy to pick up girls. Life suddenly became quiet. In order to find something to do for himself, Tony Stark decided to start fitness and boxing. The purpose of boxing is to hope that after becoming Iron Man, he will not only rely on super weapons, but also have excellent boxing and kicking skills, because most audiences still like martial arts scenes very much. Tony Stark was not idle, and neither was his other revenge rival. After Ivan Vanko developed his own arc reactor and power suit, he spent money to buy a fake passport. Next, it was time for him to start his revenge. Ivan Vanko was a burly man with a toothpick in his mouth, looking like he was ready to take down Iron Man. Chapter 362 The story that Black Widow and Iron Man have to tell. Ivan Vanko's revenge looks abrupt, because there is almost no story about his youth in the original movie. It is impossible for a person to become a vicissitudes of life in a middle-aged uncle for no reason. But there are obviously some problems with his setting. Ivan Vanko is definitely not a good person, but he is not doing well, including his father. In the original play, Ivan Vanko can kill and set fire without changing his face. Such a ruthless person should not be doing badly, but he and his father are both doing badly and suffering from the hardships of life. So after Ivan Vanko's father died in depression, he vented all his anger on the founder of Stark Industries, the Initiator, and this great enemy is Iron Man's father. However, Iron Man's father has been killed for many years, and it is obviously unrealistic to seek revenge on a person who has been dead for many years. In contrast, he is in a miserable state. But Iron Man Tony Stark is so prosperous, and this breath is really unbearable. After all, Ivan Vanko's father also contributed to the research of the arc reactor technology. However, now that he has done his job, he must have a motive for revenge. The only unreasonable thing is that Ivan Vanko is a ruthless person with skills, so he shouldn't be so miserable. Because in reality, such people, even if they can't beat Iron Man Tony Stark, at least dominate the world. Tony Stark didn't realize the new crisis at all. He thought that his biggest crisis at present was the poisoning of the arc reactor, and the toxicity in his blood was getting higher and higher. But the technology Tony Stark currently possessed could not solve it at all. Even if Tony Stark consulted a lot of information, at the last moment of life, it seems that only God can take action. Otherwise, Tony Stark would not find any possibility of survival. When practicing boxing with the bodyguard's fat body looked naive. Maybe Iron Man is too smart, so his bodyguard doesn't look so smart. Although Tony Stark's bodyguard is not the main character in the movie, he is actually given a lot of scenes. The bodyguard dare not hurt the boss, so he is naturally doing the work of sparring carefully. Miss Hermione is also here. She is eating delicious cake and looking at the world outside the window, waiting for the emergence of new plots. After a while, Pepper, who has taken over Stark Industries in full, came with a sexy and hot-looking woman. This woman is none other than the very famous Black Widow in the Marvel Universe, but now she is still a female agent of SHIELD, and her purpose of lurking is also very simple. SHIELD's information intelligence is still very powerful. Tony Stark began to feel unwell, and they immediately learned about it, and quickly arranged such a sexy female agent according to the character of Playboy Tony Stark. It really worked. When Tony Stark turned around and saw the sexy agent Black Widow, his eyes were straight. It's not that Black Widow Natasha Romanoff is so beautiful. Compared with beauty, no woman can compare with Miss Hermione Granger. It's just that what makes Natasha Romanoff Black Widow different is her temperament, sexy with a temperament that is completely different from ordinary women. The female assistant Pepper was dissatisfied when she saw that her boss had returned to his nature, but she didn't stop him. After all, the current boss Tony Stark was good enough. The previous playboy Tony Stark was speechless. Pepper had to do other work, so she left quickly, leaving Black Widow and Tony Stark to discuss work matters. Tony Stark took out a pen and asked where to sign. Black Widow didn't pay much attention to Tony Stark's dishonest eyes, and had a professional work attitude. In the movie, Black Widow was also shown a scene of her agility, which was to knock down Tony Stark's bodyguard with one move. Here, Black Widow may not have that chance, because Miss Hermione's system option task appeared. Option 1. Show your true form and get to know Black Widow. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, Temperament, +1. Option 2. Tell Tony Stark to calm down. The other party is an agent, not an ordinary workplace beauty. Completing the task will reward you with a winter hat. Option 3. Be mysterious and shock Black Widow so that she can't understand the real situation of Iron Man. Completing the task will reward you with basic attribute +1. It's interesting. In fact, none of these three options are what Ms. Hermione wants to choose. She still likes to watch the show and not participate, but this time there is no option to stand idly by. Option 1 is to get to know Black Widow. Miss Hermione thinks that they will definitely get to know each other in the future, but it's a bit early to show up now. Option 2. Tell Tony Stark the truth. In fact, the fact that Black Widow is an agent does not have much impact on Iron Man. Tony Stark. S.H.I.E.L.D. is on the side of helping Iron Man. Similarly, Option 3 is also meaningless to help Tony Stark conceal the truth. In fact, Tony Stark's body can be easily solved by Miss Hermione. What Miss Hermione cannot solve is the core technology of the arc reactor. This requires an opportunity, but the problem of Tony Stark's body poisoning is easy for Hermione to solve. Hermione did not take action because she did not want to cause a butterfly effect. Therefore, it seems that there is not much meaning to be mysterious. Black Widow came to understand Tony Stark's condition, report it to SHIELD, and then help Tony solve the problem. Both Option 2 and Option 3 are not very meaningful, but Miss Hermione can choose according to the size of the system reward. The latter is undoubtedly a better reward. Winter hat. Miss Hermione now has many green hats in her space ring. Miss Hermione did not take the initiative to give them away without the system's evil taste option. Since Option 3 has been decided, Miss Hermione must do something. She came to Tony Stark and Black Widow, and tried to be mysterious. Hermione thought about it and decided to use magic to control Tony Stark to suddenly perform a handstand on the spot. Black Widow was stunned. She knew that Tony Stark was a playboy and must have a set of mature and effective skills to pick up girls, such as being handsome and spending money on women. But the well-informed Black Widow Natasha Romanoff never thought that the famous Iron Man Tony Stark would actually perform a handstand in front of her. Tony Stark's chubby bodyguard was also stunned. He didn't understand why his boss had such a big reaction to seeing Black Widow. It was a bit abnormal. Iron Man Tony Stark was even more depressed. He didn't do it at all. His body stood upside down by itself, and there were some difficult moves to follow. After Tony Stark's performance of handstand, Miss Hermione used magic to control him to do splits on the spot. This move is very difficult, and only those who have studied dance professionally can do it. Ordinary people will definitely strain their muscles and bones. But it doesn't matter. Miss Hermione's magic is profound and broad, and she directly turned Tony Stark's hips into rubber. Not to mention a 180-degree split. Even a 360-degree rotation on the spot is no problem. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 363 Iron Man's Talent. Iron Man and Black Widow met for the first time, but because of Hermione's forced move, the atmosphere of the whole scene changed completely. Tony Stark's behavior at this time looked really weird. He stood upside down and did splits, and then danced an exaggerated tap dance. The expression on his face was also uncontrollably combined into an extremely exaggerated expression. You can refer to Tom and Jerry or The Mask. In short, Tony Stark's behavior at this moment is not what a normal human can do, exaggerated and funny. After dancing, Tony Stark directly turned into a bright rose in his hand. For you, ma'am. Even this sentence was not what Iron Man wanted to say. It was all controlled by the boring god Miss Hermione Granger. Behind him, Tony Stark's honest bodyguard was stunned. He had followed Tony Stark for many years and never expected that his big boss had such a talent. It was simply jaw-dropping and amazing. The same is true for Black Widow. As a beautiful agent, she has survived for many years due to her body mutation and has a beautiful face. She has met all kinds of men, but she has never seen anyone as talented as Tony Stark. Moreover, according to the information Black Widow has obtained so far, Iron Man should be researching technological weapons, not the ability obtained by physical mutation. But why did he just perform the super difficult body movements that only non-humans can perform? How did he complete it? It's really puzzling. Congratulations on completing the Option 3 task, and reward basic attributes +1. Miss Hermione is not doing it for a bad taste. It's all for the task. Everyone should understand and tolerate it. After completing the task, Hermione retired. After Tony Stark regained control of his body, he was completely messed up. He opened his eyes wide and looked at Black Widow in surprise. What did I just do? Black Widow Natasha Romanoff showed a question mark on her face. Shouldn't she be the one asking this question? Boss, you just performed the shocking dance. Tony Stark's bodyguard came out to speak, breaking Tony Stark's state of being still immersed in the dream just now. Yes, you are right. Tony Stark finally figured it out. It was not a dream just now, and his body joints were not damaged at all. But he just performed so many difficult movements that ordinary humans could not do. This is definitely not accidental. It must be God. Joking. Tony Stark is very smart. In the Marvel Universe, he is the first person to see the power of God. At the beginning, God took him back to the past and turned him into a spider. God's power is infinitely powerful. Although God is extremely beautiful and has always appeared in front of Tony Stark as a serious person, who can guarantee that God is not joking? Maybe just now was God's more naughty side. Seeing Tony Stark in deep thought, Black Widow said, Boss, your performance just now is really amazing, but I am not a casual woman, so please don't be so frivolous next time when you talk about work. Tony Stark smiled bitterly, and he could only return to the appearance of a serious man and said, I don't think there will be a next time. Tony sat down and started to work. After work, Black Widow left with the documents signed by Tony Stark. Tony Stark looked at the sexy back of Black Widow and was a little dazed, until the honest bodyguard came over and asked, Boss, do you have any other instructions? Tony Stark shook his head and said, You go out, I want to be alone for a while. Tony Stark wanted to create a private space for God to come out, but Hermione had already left, and she did not give Tony Stark a chance to see her. Hermione knew that Tony Stark would be very confused about her performance just now, but Hermione felt that it was really meaningless for her to come out in person to explain this problem. After staying in the Marvel Universe for a long time, Hermione decided to return to Hogwarts to live for a while. Since she was able to travel through the Marvel Universe, the story of Hogwarts has begun to progress slowly. If it were in the past, she would have graduated by now, and the new semester might have started. At this moment, this year's Hogwarts life is not even halfway through. The sun is shining brightly in Hogwarts. After Miss Hermione returns, she has to think about what happened before she traveled through time. It seems that Harry Potter and Malfoy are fighting, and then Mad-Eye Moody messes up. Mad-Eye Moody provides methods and opinions to Harry Potter. Because Miss Hermione has always been a spectator, she did not participate in it. Indeed, Miss Hermione did not have much role in the original movie, so it doesn't matter whether she participates or not. The students who were watching the excitement were driven away by Professor McGonagall. At this moment, Harry walked out of Mad-Eye Moody's office. Mad-Eye Moody told Miss Hermione before she traveled through time that brooms were not allowed in the competition, but wands were not prohibited. Harry can find a breakthrough from this. Miss Hermione was not triggered to do a new task at this moment, so she did not appear in front of Harry at the first time. Ron, who was in conflict with Harry, was walking with another boy in the same dormitory. Harry took out his anger on Ron, and Harry walked straight over and scolded, "You are a big idiot, understand?" Ron looked serious, and the conflict between him and Harry Potter could not be resolved. "Do you think so? You are just stupid." Hermione had just come back, and she might not understand Harry Potter's sudden temper, but the story of this world is complete. Harry was disappointed that Hagrid took him to see the dragon last night, but Ron did not tell him. Ron's face was ugly. In fact, there was a hidden secret, but in the end he was too proud to say it. "Anything else?" "Yes, stay away from me," Harry said angrily. "Okay." Ron also turned around and left angrily. The two little boys were in conflict, and the conflict escalated further at this moment. They did not understand each other, and neither of them was willing to explain more. Sure enough, according to Miss Hermione's experience in doing tasks, the system options and tasks popped up at this moment. Option 1. Go and comfort Harry Potter. He has suffered too much pressure and exclusion and abuse during this period. Complete the task and reward basic attribute +1. Option 2. Go and comfort Ron. In fact, he is also quite pitiful from Ron's perspective. Complete the task and reward a pair of green sneakers. Option 3. The small problems between the two of them are none of my business. I will ignore them. Complete the task and reward a bottle of gel water. Hermione's personality really wants to do option 3, but she really doesn't need the gel water. Option 1 is still the most valuable, so Hermione chased Harry. At this moment, because of Malfoy's instigation, Harry Potter's reputation in Hogwarts is at its lowest point. It is good that he has not been abused all the way. Hermione. Harry actually knew that Hermione was there all the time, but in order not to cause trouble to Hermione, Harry did not take the initiative to approach Hermione. Chapter 364 Hermione and Harry Potter's Scandal. Harry Potter's reputation is very bad now. Even though Harry knows that Miss Hermione has always supported him, he still has to consider Hermione's reputation. So even though he could see Miss Hermione's beautiful figure among the crowd, Harry did not take the initiative to find her. When Hermione took the initiative to approach Harry in order to complete the task, Harry Potter subconsciously looked around, afraid that he would be seen by people with bad intentions and affect Miss Hermione's reputation. Miss Hermione is certainly not afraid. Her current good reputation cannot be affected by a single Harry Potter. She has no organization or appeal. Hermione is very low-key, otherwise half of the entire Hogwarts would be her fanatical fans. Miss Hermione is too perfect, and this point cannot be denied. "Hermione, let's meet in private." Today, Harry Potter suffered the most abuse in history, and he had to avoid suspicion. Hermione said, "Harry, you underestimate me too much." Harry hesitated and did not say such words again. Hermione continued, "Harry, life is like the ups and downs of the sea, with ups and downs. The ridicule of those people now will become their humiliation when you become successful." "Thank you, Hermione, it's great to have you by my side," Harry said sincerely. In the original movie, Harry Potter never expressed his love and pursuit for Hermione. This year's Harry Potter even fell in love with another girl in the movie. And Harry Potter here, although he is still a straight man, he understands that such a beautiful woman has already lived in his heart. Other girls can tempt her at all. Time soon came to the day of the Triwizard Tournament, which was destined to be the busiest time of the year in Hogwarts. Countless students and professors are looking forward to it. The weather is of course good weather. The competition venue is very large and can accommodate many people at the same time. There are also money-making projects organized by students with more flexible business minds. Place your bets. Place your bets quickly. Place your bets. Place your bets here. Come on, everyone. The bloody battle is about to begin. Bet a little money, and the smart ones will bet on Crumb to win. Place your bets. Please go ahead, sir. 10-1 bet on Flirt to win. Thank you very much. The lively voices came one after another. The voice of Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, rang out loudly. "Please pay attention, everyone. Today is a big day. Each of the events in the Triwizard Tournament may cause great danger. No matter what happens, do not leave your seat, so as to avoid more danger. At the same time, not far from the competition venue, there's a special tent, where the warriors participating in the Triwizard Tournament today are all here. Harry Potter also sat nervously in the corner, constantly clenching his hands to relieve his pressure. "Harry, is that you?" "Yes." In the original movie, this is the first time that Miss Hermione Granger showed Harry emotions beyond friendship. It's a pity that Harry in the original movie was too stupid and missed it. In the original movie, Hermione stood outside the tent nervously and said, "I'm sure we all wish our champion good luck. How does it feel? Are you okay?" The key is to concentrate, and then you just fight the dragon. Harry just answered. Hermione in the original movie couldn't help but rush in and hugged Harry. Of course, such a wonderful scene can only appear in the original movie, and Hermione here came very late because she was sleeping in. Compared with ordinary students who are too excited to sleep early in the morning, Miss Hermione slept very comfortably. In Hermione's opinion, sleeping in is one of the most comfortable things for humans, and there are few things that can compare to it. When she came to the Triwizard Tournament, the system popped up a dialog box. Option 1. Inject the power of love into Harry. Hug Harry like in the original show, and encourage him. Completing the task will reward you with basic attribute +1. Option 2. Crumb, the real rumored boyfriend in the original drama and movie, is the one who needs your love. Go and cheer for Crumb, and completing the task will reward you with exclusive attribute, love, +1. Option 3. Walk into the tent, just chat, and completing the task will reward you with a bag of melon seeds. Damn, this task is too ridiculous. Hermione couldn't help but spit out sweet words. The most valuable one is of course option 1, but Hermione doesn't want to give Harry a chance. Although the Harry Potter here is better than the one in the original drama, Hermione still doesn't want to fall in love. She doesn't want to give Harry a chance, nor does she want him to misunderstand, because no man in this world can get her. She doesn't want to hurt Harry emotionally. It's good for everyone to be friends together. Therefore, Hermione naturally can't choose to do option 1 for basic attribute +1. Option 2 is even more impossible. Crumb can only attract Hermione in the original drama, and Hermione here doesn't like it. Only option 3 is left. Although it can only reward 1 bag of melon seeds, it is very considerate to give a bag of melon seeds, which is not bad. Hermione came in directly. Outsiders were not allowed to enter the warriors' tent casually, but this was not a problem for Hermione. Harry, who was nervous, stood up immediately when he saw Hermione appear. "Harry, I know you are very nervous, so I came to bring you a piece of chocolate." Hermione had a lot of snacks, and a simple chat would always have some topics. "Thank you." When Harry took the chocolate, he was filmed by a camera. The camera here was from the Daily Prophet. When I didn't know much about it before, I thought it was a very serious daily newspaper, but it was not. The familiar old woman reporter appeared immediately. "Love is just beginning." The old woman reporter of the Daily Prophet clapped and praised. "It's so exciting. If something unfortunate happened today, you two would be on the front page." Hermione looked unhappy. In the original play, Hermione and Harry were caught hugging each other and then slandered for having an affair. This was understandable. They were both grown boys and girls, and they were still hugging each other, which really made people think about it. But Hermione here, who had never even touched Harry Potter's hand, was still caught in the photo and then slandered for being in love. This is really infuriating. However, what was surprising next was that before Harry Potter and Hermione opened their mouths to explain, another warrior, Crumb, appeared in the tent. Crumb had a keen eye for Hermione in the original play, and it was even more so here. Miss Hermione's beauty was the most beautiful Crumb had ever seen. He stood up and scolded, "You have nothing to do here. This tent is for the warriors and friends." The old woman reporter was startled, and she pretended to be calm and said, "It doesn't matter, we have already taken pictures of what we want." The photographer who was in cahoots with her took another picture, taking Miss Hermione, Harry Potter and Crumb together. It is conceivable how Miss Hermione will be written in tomorrow's Daily Prophet. A love triangle is definitely indispensable. Rita Skeeter is an old lady reporter. She will not give Ms. Hermione face, as long as she can write explosive and attractive articles. She will not care about Miss Hermione's reputation. If Miss Hermione wants to maintain her reputation, she can only use a trick. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365. You were born a god. How can you know the love, hate, anger and stupidity of mortals? Miss Hermione's ultimate move was to make the old woman Rita Skeeter disappear from the world, but after thinking about it, she felt that it was unnecessary. How could ordinary people match Hermione's beauty? You were born a fairy, so how could you know the love, hate, anger, and stupidity of ordinary people? In my life, I can't ask for it, can't let it go, and can't escape the world of mortals. This beautiful sentence can only appear in the mouths of others. Because Hermione is a fairy, the love, hate, anger, and stupidity of the world can't catch up with the beautiful Hermione. Rita Skeeter had just left, and Headmaster Dumbledore came in with a group of 5 or 6 guys. There is no doubt that Dumbledore was going to talk about the Triwizard Tournament that was about to start. In the original play, Headmaster Dumbledore didn't give Hermione face and asked directly, "What are you doing here, Miss Granger?" In the original play, Miss Granger could only say awkwardly, "Sorry, I'm leaving now." In the original play, Harry, who had hugged Hermione, didn't say much, which was really a bit self-indulgent. Dumbledore will still give Miss Hermione face, although she is not a player in the Triwizard Tournament, so she really shouldn't be here. However, Dumbledore doesn't need to drive her away here, because Miss Hermione's business in Marvel is coming again. Hermione is going to travel through Marvel. She turned around, took out the time converter, and then adjusted the time. Everything around her began to change. If in the past, Hermione had killed Rita Skeeter, a reporter from the Daily Prophet, before she arrived, then the problem would be much simpler. At least Miss Hermione would not be rumored to have a scandal, and it would be on the front page of the newspaper. But there is no need, because Hermione here didn't hug Harry Potter, so she shouldn't worry about anything. Going back to the past will trigger a series of butterfly effects that will change the future. This is clearly explained by Iron Man in the Marvel Universe, but it won't happen in Hogwarts here. After all, it is a magical world, and there are relatively fewer rules and restrictions. In the original play, Hermione used it for a year and nothing happened. Of course, Hermione here did not go back to the past to change anything. She felt that she was very stable in doing things, and even if there were some minor mistakes, it was harmless, and there was no need to go back to the past to change anything. She now used the time converter, just to buy herself some more time. After all, Hermione did not want the time here to pass quickly after she traveled through Marvel. The best result is that when Miss Hermione leaves, the time in Hogwarts will be paused directly, and then wait for her to come back. It's like watching a TV series on a computer or mobile phone. Go to the toilet, pause, and wait to continue watching. It's not that Hermione goes to take a shower here, and the TV series will start to play the next episode when she comes back. That would be terrible. But there is definitely no way to pause in Hogwarts, but she can go back to the past, so that the timeline will continue to play from the 10 hours of going back. And this part of time, Hermione uses to travel through the other world. For example, there is no way to pause a TV series, but it can rewind and replay it. Hermione only needs to go back 10 hours, and when the Hogwarts story is replayed, she can use this time to travel through Marvel to save the world. Marvel is also quite lively. The universe is so big that there is never a lack of lively places. At the racing club, Iron Man Tony Stark was invited to participate, accompanied by 2 beauties, Pepper Potts and Black Widow. Of course, the honest-looking bodyguard is not missing. While everyone was communicating together, Justin Hammer, the boss of Hankmer Advanced Industries, the rival of Stark Industries, was also receiving an interview from a beautiful reporter. Being in the upper-class circle, there are really many beauties around him. Pick one at random. They are all very pleasing to the eye. But compared to the goddess Hermione, it is naturally incomparable. Miss Hermione is used to coming in stealth, low-key. Although the system prompted Miss Hermione to come, it did not immediately assign Miss Hermione a task. Hermione was not idle either. She found a place to eat and eat melons and watch the show. Unlike the hearing, this is a club. Justin Hammer greeted Tony Stark with a friendly face, but Iron Man is not as magnanimous as him, and Tony Stark still felt very unnatural. Tony Stark is not very good at being one thing in front of people and another behind their backs. He is a person of true temperament. Unable to stand Justin Hammer's hypocrisy, Tony Stark left directly. Pepper, the female assistant, is now the real person in charge of Stark Industries. When she saw Tony Stark leave, she thought he had taken a fancy to some young model and planned to go to a hotel to talk about his ideal life. Little did she know that Tony Stark went to do something more exciting. Since Tony Stark was chosen by God to become a superhero, he has been very restrained in his private life. Now he is poisoned by the arc reactor and will not live long, so he wants to do something crazy. Of course, as a superhero movie, crazy things naturally have nothing to do with men and women. Women can only affect the speed of a man's sword drawing. Tony Stark came to the racing field. He had already put on a handsome racing suit. He planned to participate in a racing race full of excitement and passion without prior notice. Usually, money can change who will be the champion of the race. But because Tony Stark did not notify in advance, there will naturally be a different ending. Tony Stark just did it casually. He often did things like this. Cool. But on Miss Hermione's side, the system was finally successfully triggered. Option 1. Stop Tony Stark. His old bones are not suitable for competitions. Complete the task and reward 1 box of mechanical pencils. Option 2. Modify Tony Stark's racing car to make him run at the speed of an airplane. Complete the task and reward basic attributes +1. Option 3. Sit in the audience and watch the show without taking action. Complete the task and reward 1 bucket of popcorn. The system options are still the same as before, with 3 options and 3 story endings. It is certainly very cool to watch the show without taking action, but the reward is too little. It's impossible that Hermione traveled all the way from Hogwarts just for a bucket of popcorn. Option 1. Stop Tony Stark and reward him with a mechanical pencil. She used quill pens at Hogwarts, and she basically couldn't use mechanical pencils. So, Miss Hermione flew to Tony Stark's car in stealth. Tony Stark was very cool at the moment. Even though he decided to participate in the car race at the last minute, he was the focus of everyone's attention wherever he went. In Iron Man 1, even the soldiers were very concerned about how many beauties Tony Stark had slept with, and who was his ex-girlfriend would be talked about with relish. Nowadays, Tony Stark keeps himself clean and doesn't mess around with beauties, but the media is still scrambling to report on his interests and hobbies in other areas. After all, as long as you write some gossip about Tony Stark, you can get very high ratings. This naturally attracted countless reporters. Interviews are also continuous. Chapter 366, In My Life, I Can't Ask for It, I Can't Let It Go, and I Can't Escape the World of Mortals. At the car club, Justin Hammer, as a big boss, was being interviewed in a well-dressed manner. Sitting in front of him was a beautiful reporter. In the story of Iron Man 1, the beautiful reporter who came to interview Tony Stark could have a one-night stand in just a few hours. As for Justin Hammer, as a big boss, he also had this thought. But the beautiful reporter in front of him didn't seem to give her face. There were too many rich men in the upper class, and there were just as many men who were more attractive than Justin Hammer. The beautiful reporter was concentrating on interviewing Justin Hammer, professionally, listening to his bragging with a professional smile. But when she saw the live report on the TV next to her that Iron Man Tony Stark was going to participate in a racing competition, she suddenly became uneasy. "Let's make an appointment next time." The beautiful reporter left the sentence, turned around and took the microphone to go to the racing scene to interview Tony Stark. As the villain Justin Hammer was ruthlessly abandoned at this moment, He was very hurt in his heart, but in order to maintain the dignity of a noble man, he could not show it. He also pretended to be calm and generous, but the hatred in his eyes when he looked at the TV obviously betrayed him. Damn Tony! Apostrophe in the fight for the headlines of the news and attracting everyone's attention, Justin Hammer is always a long way from it. Miss Hermione is not around at the moment, otherwise the naughty system will definitely not miss this opportunity to add insult to injury. Goddess Hermione is now on the side of Iron Man Tony Stark. There are many racing drivers, and some are very famous, but since Iron Man Tony Stark decided to participate in the competition, all the spotlights and camera lenses have been given to him. The cool man does not need too much explanation, and the task chosen by Goddess Hermione can also make Tony Stark more popular. Even in the invisible state, Miss Hermione did not forget the elegance and ritual of being a wizard. She was wearing a colorful magic suit and waving a delicate wand in her hand. When the magic light emitted by the wand enveloped the car that Tony Stark had just sat in, Tony Stark obviously felt something. He was Iron Man and had a natural familiarity with steel machines. At this moment, Tony Stark was holding the steering wheel, but he could feel that the car under his butt seemed to have a strong heart all of a sudden. Is this car tampered with? It shouldn't be. Tony Stark couldn't stand the group of hypocritical upper-class people in the club, so he decided to come out to race the car to get some fresh air. It stands to reason that the car shouldn't be tampered with so quickly. However, the time of the car is precious. Before Tony Stark could think about it, the referee had already blew the whistle, and in an instant, several cars sped away. At this time, Tony Stark also stepped on the accelerator. The moment he stepped on it, Tony Stark felt suffocated. The strong feeling of being pushed back at high speed made his brain go blank instantly. The initial speed of the car was already very fast. However, Tony Stark's car was tampered with by Goddess Hermione because of the system option task. In an instant, the speed was as fast as an airplane, and there was dust all the way. This was just the beginning. The other racers could only watch Tony Stark's car in despair. The other racers were all stunned. What kind of car was this? It was too exaggerated. At such a fast speed, why didn't the tires smoke? The reporters and cameramen at the scene were also stunned. It's worthy of being Iron Man. He's not driving a car, but a steel beast. Quick, take a picture. Pepper and Black Widow, who were still in the club, were also stunned, especially Black Widow. She is an agent of SHIELD. Because Iron Man Tony Stark had something wrong with his body, she sneaked in to investigate. But the last time we met, Tony Stark was doing handstands, splits, and dancing on the spot, which was obviously healthier than ordinary people. Now, others are driving racing cars, but he is flying a plane, which is so exaggerated that it is surprising. Did the headquarters make a mistake? How could Tony Stark, who is more powerful than a cow, have health problems? Tony Stark himself was also shocked. Before he developed the Iron Man armor, he had a hobby of collecting various sports cars. He has all kinds of sports cars in the world, and he has driven them all, but he has never driven such a terrifying sports car today. This speed, even Tony Stark, who is fearless, has decided to slow down. Otherwise, if he can't control it, he will definitely die at this speed. Tony Stark's brain is also thinking quickly at the same time. There must be something wrong with the abnormal situation. Thinking of the special situation last time, after the God finished the prank, he just left without explaining to Tony Stark. This time, God did not show up either, but the car was too abnormal. Most likely it was done by God. Tony Stark couldn't help but smile bitterly. What on earth was God doing? Why did he always do these boring things? If possible, Tony Stark hoped that God could show up to solve the problem of poisoning his body, which was related to his life. But how could the behavior of God be controlled by mortals? After Miss Hermione successfully completed the task, she went to help Tony Stark, because as a top master, Miss Hermione had discovered that Tony Stark's enemy Ivan Vanko had appeared. If nothing unexpected happened, Ivan Vanko would teach Iron Man a lesson in public. At this time, Tony Stark needed the Iron Man armor to save his life. In the car club, seeing Tony Stark's car whizzing away on TV, Pepper, Virginia Pepper Potts and Black Widow were very worried. Miss Hermione came over here. She knew that the Iron Man armor was now in the hands of Tony Stark's honest bodyguard. Hermione could make the Iron Man armor briefcase fly directly to Tony Stark's hands with a magic. However, Miss Hermione hoped that the next battle would be more exciting, so she chose to use the God to tell Pepper, Virginia Pepper Potts, "Tony Stark is in danger, bring his armor to him." Hermione's voice appeared very subtle. She could not see the person, but heard the voice. And the voice was ethereal, as if it came from the horizon, and it seemed to be right next to the ear. It was very mysterious and wonderful. Pepper, Virginia Pepper Potts was stunned for a moment, and asked in panic, "Who is it? Who is talking?" Tony Stark's honest bodyguard came over and asked, "What's wrong, Ms. Potts?" "The honest bodyguard is a very trustworthy person," Virginia Pepper Potts said nervously. "Some strange voices just told me that Tony is in danger. Let's take this to him quickly." Pepper pointed at the special suitcase in the hand of the honest bodyguard. The honest bodyguard watched the boss's racing car on TV, which was as fast as an airplane. He nodded in agreement and said, "The boss does look dangerous." Pepper, Virginia Pepper Potts said seriously, "I don't know who said it or if I have auditory hallucinations, but we have to go there immediately. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone." Chapter 367 The sunset sinks into the Orange Sea. The sunset is immersed in the Orange Sea, and the evening breeze is infatuated with the love of Akagi. In this cruel world, there will always be a unique love that makes people exhausted and feel the only beauty left in the world. As a god, Hermione took Virginia Pepper Potts's voice very seriously. Whether it was an auditory hallucination or not, she could not stand idly by. Miss Potts rushed to the scene immediately with her honest bodyguard. Tony Stark, he really has a natural proficiency in steel. Even though his current sports car is terrifyingly fast, it doesn't bother him at all. Using the fastest speed is to adapt to this racing car. What Tony Stark never expected was that Ivan Vanko, an enemy who had never appeared in front of him, appeared. This guy is a super ruthless person. If Tony Stark's Iron Man armor is perfect, then Ivan Vanko's exoskeleton is the most concise and practical. At the same time, he has an arc whip in each hand, biting a toothpick, and appeared on the racing track calmly. When Hermione saw the highlight of this scene, she sighed slightly. If this wasn't a science fiction movie, the villain Ivan Vanko would actually be just as dangerous if he appeared with a machine gun full of bullets. However, in the story of Iron Man, everyone is more obsessed with the exoskeleton and the arc reactor. This grand racing competition can attract countless spectators. The sudden unexpected situation at this moment made countless spectators instantly lock their eyes on the villain Ivan Vanko. As a big villain, Ivan Vanko did not disappoint us. The speed of the car was very fast, and Ivan Vanko entered suddenly. At this time, if the speeding racer wanted to brake, it would be too late. And Ivan Vanko was not afraid. He saw him raise the arc whip and fall down. He moved freely and acted ruthlessly. The arc whip was very terrifying. Just one blow cut the speeding car in half. Such a ruthless scene also made the audience exclaim. Ivan Vanko was calm and composed. It was clear that his simple exoskeleton only needed a few bullets to end his life. I don't know where he got his confidence from. Besides, if he was so awesome, why did he end up so unsatisfactory? If he could become a big boss, he would not have the revenge today. It can only be said that hatred is an extremely wonderful thing. It can make humans who are not very outstanding burst out extraordinary energy. Tony Stark will be here soon. At the critical moment, Miss Hermione Granger, who was suspended in the air and observing everything calmly like a god, had a transparent pop-up window in front of her. Option 1. Ivan Vanko is too arrogant. Teach him a lesson and make his arc reactor malfunction. Complete the task and get a reward of 10 kilograms of gold. Option 2. Use magic to make Tony Stark's car fly directly, so that Ivan Vanko, who is on the ground with a simple exoskeleton, can't reach it at all. Complete the task and get 10 kilograms of diamonds as reward. Choose 3. As a god, there is no need to do everything. Just wait and see. Complete the task and get basic attribute +1. The 3 options this time are good. Strictly speaking, option 3 is good, which can maximize the interests of Miss Hermione. Watching the show and eating melons, you can complete the task and get rewards, which is naturally Hermione's favorite thing. Tony Stark didn't know the danger he would encounter next. He drove over and saw the wreckage and flames of the car in front of him. He thought it was a traffic accident. It is very normal for such an extreme car to have such an accident. However, what Tony Stark didn't expect was that this traffic accident was actually man-made, because his car was very fast, and others had just run one lap, but he was already on the second lap. Just a quick glance. Ivan Vanko recognized Tony Stark at a glance. Even if Tony Stark was still wearing a special helmet for racing drivers, Ivan Vanko could recognize him at a glance just by looking at his eyes. This is the potential stimulated by strong hatred. The whip flashing with electric arcs flew down and instantly cut off the front half of Tony Stark's car. The front of the car was gone. Ivan Vanko did not kill Tony Stark directly. He wanted to let his prey see how powerful he was. Boom. Tony Stark's car rolled over. Fortunately, Tony Stark's body was strong enough. He struggled to climb out of the car that had been split into two. At this time, all the cars behind collided with each other, and the flames were raging. The villain Ivan Vanko strode over very calmly. The electric arc whip in his hand kept lashing the ground, leaving horrible scars. The ground did nothing wrong. Why should it be ruthlessly whipped? This Ivan Vanko is really a bad guy. Tony Stark was seriously injured, but he still took off his racing helmet in the war and looked at the man with a simple exoskeleton and an arc reactor similar to Iron Man's armor in front of him to provide a steady supply of energy. Who are you? Ivan Vanko bit his toothpick to look cool. It was inconvenient to answer, so he didn't answer. His whipping skills were quite powerful, and no one knew who he learned from. He whipped Tony Stark with a whip at a very fast speed. This time the villain really intended to kill Tony Stark. At the critical moment, Virginia Pepperpotts, who received a reminder from the goddess Hermione and rushed over quickly, was responsible for driving. This female assistant who usually worked steadily could also show her madness at the critical moment. She drove very fast and drifted when she rushed over. Now, the honest bodyguard also knew how to cooperate and immediately threw the special suitcase out of the car window. At the same time, in order to buy time for Tony Stark, Pepper drove madly and hit the villain Ivan Vanko. In a tense moment, Pepper could also risk her life to save her boss. So there is a reason why Tony Stark has trusted Pepper for so many years. Even though Tony Stark, who used to be a playboy, would bring different women home every night, Pepper would help his boss clean up the mess without complaint. Which man would not love a woman who is always by his side? But the first time the villain fought Tony Stark, he had the aura of a villain. Not only the protagonist has the aura, but the villain also has it. The aura of the villain is that he will never die until the last moment. Pepper's car hit him, and for ordinary people, it might be a life-or-death situation. But for Ivan Vanko, it was nothing more than waving one more whip. Boom. The arc whip was indeed mighty and domineering, and it split Pepper's car in two with one blow. This time it was split particularly thoroughly. Pepper's co-pilot seat was completely split. She was on this side, and the honest bodyguard was on the other side of the back seat, and both of them were scared at the same time. I have never seen such a terrifying whip in my life. Fortunately, they were lucky. Although the car was split in two, they were fine. The prominent characters are all alive, but the extras are all dead. Chapter 368 Evening breeze falls in Akagi's love. The relationship between Tony Stark and Pepper Potts is self-evident. Standing up in times of danger and not letting down the chain at critical moments is also an enviable emotional story. Some feelings may not need to be sweet. The kind of "you have me in your heart, I have you in my heart, never abandon, never forget," is enough. Tony Stark saw Pepper Potts and the honest bodyguard in danger to save himself, and his heart was burning with anger. This guy who jumped out to take his life without knowing right or wrong. How could he tolerate it? The special suitcase is right under his feet. Outsiders don't know the secret of this box at all, because they didn't expect that Tony Stark could already make the Iron Man armor into a suitcase size. Tony Stark quickly opened the suitcase switch, and the most exciting scene in the movie was staged. The suitcase opened like a sci-fi color, and Tony Stark reached in with both hands. The next moment, countless perfectly calculated steel parts were quickly combined on Tony Stark's body, lightweight and portable, with amazing defense. This is the Iron Man armor. When the high-tech mask finally fell on Tony Stark's face, he, who was just a mortal body, instantly turned into the Iron Man superhero. Oh my god, so cool. The original drama and movie did not give too many perspectives of the masses. After all, they are not important, and the audience here is very addicted. People who like to watch car races are already crazy fans of Speed and Furious. Now they can not only see the most exciting scene of the car, but also watch Ivan Vanko's exoskeleton Arquette fighting Iron Man for free. The ticket for today is definitely worth it. After the Iron Man armor was successfully put on, Iron Man did not fight with his opponent immediately, but rushed to the car that had been split in two very quickly, and broke it open with his bare hands, just like breaking an apple. Quickly rescued the little Pepper and the honest bodyguard inside. After the rescue, the car that was split in two also began to explode. It was really dangerous. All this, the story between the flash of lightning, was played out under the eyes of Goddess Hermione. But even if Pepper and the honest bodyguard died, it didn't matter. At most, Miss Hermione could use the time converter to go back a few minutes ago and rescue them. For Goddess Hermione, it was a piece of cake. At present, she was still doing the task of not taking action, watching the exciting battle plot. No theater could buy Miss Hermione's best viewing seat at the moment. Iron Man, today I will turn your armor into a pile of broken copper and rotten iron in front of everyone. Although Ivan Vanko was bragging, he did have the ability. The arc whips in his hands directly hit the Iron Man armor. The armor that could defend against small missiles was directly deformed by this terrifying arc, and the second blow directly pulled open the outer steel sheet, revealing the delicate instruments inside. After suffering this heavy blow, the Iron Man armor immediately malfunctioned and sounded an alarm. Tony Stark was also stunned. The opponent's weapon was really powerful. Tony, seeing the Iron Man armor, it was broken after just 2 whips. The steel outer armor was broken. It is conceivable that the Iron Man armor can't last long. Pepper called out worriedly. But Tony Stark was not a pushover. He immediately found Ivan Vanko's weakness. If the Iron Man armor couldn't withstand a few whips from the arc whip, it would definitely be scrapped. But at least it can still withstand a few more. Ivan Vanko, who only has an exoskeleton and no defensive armor, has amazing lethality in close combat, but he also has many flaws. Tony Stark can fly in the air and attack from a distance. In that case, Ivan Vanko can only be beaten, but not far away as Pepper and the honest bodyguard. If Tony Stark flies up and attacks from air to land, it is very likely that Pepper will also be in danger. At the same time, Tony Stark was really frustrated by the sudden attack from this enemy. Moreover, the opponent's energy source and exoskeleton were very similar to his own. Iron Man's thinking, and it was obvious that he was coming for him. He must not give in close combat. Tony Stark did not sprint wildly. He was not an angry Hulk, and Iron Man's battle required wisdom. The weakness of the enemy Ivan Vanko was not that he could not fly, and his defense was far inferior to Tony Stark's Iron Man armor. Tony Stark endured the pain of the destruction of the Iron Man armor, grabbed the arc whip that Ivan Vanko had drawn, and quickly wrapped one arm around it, forcing Ivan Vanko to be unable to retract the whip. Ivan Vanko continued to bite the toothpick and smiled evilly, and this situation was naturally within his consideration. He quickly pressed the button, and the more terrible energy on the arc whip was quickly transmitted like a super electric eel. Even the Iron Man armor was electrocuted, and the display screen malfunctioned. Smoke was coming out of many parts of the body. The defense of the Iron Man armor had reached its limit, and it was about to collapse. Iron Man's other hand turned into a fist as big as a casserole, and he punched the villain Ivan Vanko on the head. A dramatic scene occurred. Although the arc whip was powerful, the Iron Man armor could withstand a few hits. However, Ivan Vanko, who was wearing a simple exoskeleton, not only had no protection in many parts of his body, but also had no most important brain protection. Therefore, Tony Stark's punch directly knocked Ivan Vanko unconscious. The battle ended dramatically. Congratulations on completing the Option 3 task, and reward basic attributes +1. That's right, Goddess Hermione did not do anything and successfully completed the task, which was perfect. Although Iron Man Tony Stark won the battle, he did not show too much happiness. First of all, the Iron Man armor that was almost intact in the previous battle was whipped to pieces. His body was also injured. Most importantly, at the hearing, Tony Stark made it clear to the military that the Iron Man armor technology and the arc reactor technology were only owned by him and would never be leaked. But not long after that, an enemy suddenly jumped out and slapped him in the face. Although the enemy's exoskeleton was very simple and the arc reactor on his body was also the lowest version, there was no doubt that as long as it was slightly improved, a second Iron Man could be copied. This feeling was not good. In addition, Tony Stark's body was still poisoned and his life could disappear at any time. Pressure from many parties was on Tony Stark at the same time. Perhaps as a second-generation rich man, Tony Stark has never experienced the pressures of ordinary people: mortgages, car loans, marriage, elderly people and children, or even simple things like rent, utilities, mobile phone bills, broadband internet fees, meals, travel expenses, etc. However, Tony Stark also has his own pressures at this level. The technology that he was proud of was overtaken by an inexplicable enemy. His own body was poisoned. The military will definitely make trouble at the hearing and ask him to provide all the technology of the Iron Man armor again. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 369. The Story of Marvel Villains. For Hermione, she is more and more like a god who sees everything in the world, witnessing their sorrow and suffering. Finally, make the choice of God, regardless of whether this choice is the most beneficial to the characters in the original play, because most of the time, it should not be distinguished only by interests. Just like the Road of 9981, there must be no less difficulty. Otherwise, if it is missing, another difficulty will be added. Miss Hermione can be the rescuer invited by the monkey, but she cannot forcibly change the cause and effect of suffering. It is not impossible, but after arbitrary changes, it will cause more terrible consequences. After Tony Stark defeated the sudden enemy, he went down to rest. Ivan Vanko was also soon arrested and thrown into prison. What awaits him may be a long period of imprisonment, if nothing unexpected happens. On TV, reports have begun to be published about the incident that Iron Man is no longer the only one because of the appearance of Ivan Vanko, and it has attracted widespread attention. The military will definitely not miss this opportunity. Pepper watched worriedly. Tony Stark directly controlled the TV with language to turn off the TV, and he comforted Pepper. Don't worry, there will be a solution for everything. Pepper looked at the wound on Tony's face and nodded. Tony Stark really wanted to talk to God, Hermione at this moment. What will his future be like? Why has he achieved so much, and there are still so many troubles? Miss Hermione certainly couldn't answer him. She was already so powerful, but now she was still traveling around to work. At this moment, Hermione came to the prison. The new mission trigger location is here. Because Ivan Vanko performed well on the racing track, he has now been favored by Justin Hammer, the boss of Tony Stark's opponent, Hankomer Advanced Industries. It's more than a simple favor, it's simply a pleasant surprise. Justin Hammer suffers from not having the technology of Iron Man and is inferior to Stark Industries in every way. This is the general perception of everyone in the arms dealer industry. In order to break this point, Justin Hammer spent a huge amount of money to invite outstanding experts in this field from all over the world, and even conducted experiments in different bases around the world, but the results were not ideal. And he was also used as a laughingstock by Iron Man Tony Stark at the last hearing. He was not as skilled as others and was ridiculed in public. Although he felt aggrieved, he could do nothing about it. However, when he attended a car club, he unexpectedly found a treasure man. His arc-whip was extremely terrifying. Although his exoskeleton was a little crude, it was undoubtedly the same as Iron Man's armor. Justin Hammer must get this genius, no matter what method. In the prison, The prisoners here are all high IQ criminals, so the cells are different from ordinary cells. They are very clean and more upscale. After Tony Stark comforted Pepper, he couldn't help but come to meet Ivan Vanko. God, I don't understand. Tony Stark didn't know the origin of the enemy at all. Tony really had too many questions, and he had to ask them clearly in person. Miss Hermione came early, and her 10% luck allowed her to pick up money when she came to the cell. When picking up the money, I felt that my fingernails were a little long, so I took out the nail clippers to trim them. Miss Hermione can be invisible and agile. Even if this is a prison cell, she can come and go at will. Cautious Miss Hermione never does unreliable things. Even though she is super powerful now, she will not be careless. A door key is just outside the cell. If she really encounters the embarrassing situation of being locked in, Hermione can leave here anytime and anywhere without killing anyone or alerting outsiders. Of course, with Hermione's current weapons and strength, it is still very easy to force open this prison. Iron Man is not in a good mood. He has injuries on his face and is eager to see Ivan Vanko. Ivan Vanko does not give him face at all. Even in the cell, he can no longer bite the toothpick casually. It may be that the gap between his teeth is large, and it is easy to get meat stuck in his teeth, so he can only bite the toothpick in his mouth and poke it whenever he wants. Friendly reminder: if you have bad teeth, go to the dentist. If you often use toothpicks to poke your teeth, the gaps between your teeth will become bigger and bigger. Tony Stark has too many questions, but now he can only ask a few of them. Why do you want to kill me? Who instructed you? How do you master the technology of the arc reactor? Even if he only asked 3 questions, the other party Ivan Vanko did not give any face, did not answer any of them, and even looked at Tony Stark with a sneer on his face. If he was not in the cell, Tony Stark really wanted to jump up and beat this guy up. He was obviously defeated and arrested, but he dared to be so arrogant. If Iron Man was a villain, there would definitely be a way. But Tony Stark is a decent person after all, and he must not do anything too outrageous. The whole cell was silent. Miss Hermione looked at the 2 men, and the system did not give any prompts. It seems that Tony Stark is not strong enough. Rush up and kick the other man in the face. In that case, Miss Hermione's system task will definitely be triggered immediately. Tony Stark also has his own dignity. If the other party ignores him, it doesn't matter. He will check it himself. He came in a hurry and left angrily. Ivan Vanko deliberately angered Tony Stark. When Iron Man was about to leave, he finally spoke. It turned out that he was not a mute. It must be very uncomfortable to be poisoned. This sentence made Iron Man stunned on the spot. How could he know? Does he really know everything about the arc reactor? How is this possible? Tony Stark could not accept this result, but at this moment, the other party obviously looked like he was sure to win. If Tony Stark showed weakness, he would definitely be ridiculed by the other party more unscrupulously. Tony Stark's face did not allow him to do this. Besides, even if Tony Stark asked again, the other party would kill him, so it was even more impossible for him to tell the secret. In addition, Tony Stark did not believe that the other party had the technology to solve this poisoning problem, because the opponent's equipment, except for the arc whip, the arc reactor technology is not as good as Tony Stark's. If Tony Stark's arc reactor technology is at the junior high school level, then Ivan Vanko is at the elementary school level. The company's rival Justin Hammer of Hammer Advanced Industries has not even graduated from kindergarten. After Tony Stark left the cell, the real story began to be exciting. The villain Justin Hammer couldn't wait to meet Ivan Vanko. This guy who looked like a human being was ruthless. He directly bribed the people in the prison and brought a man who looked similar to Ivan Vanko. Ivan Vanko was also very smart. With just a few glances from the prison administrator, he understood that a bomb and a man who looked similar to himself were obviously trying to let him escape from prison. The equally ruthless villain Ivan Vanko went up and held down the innocent person brought in, and smashed his head directly on the toilet. He knocked the other person unconscious on the spot, set the bomb timer for 1 minute, and then Ivan Vanko walked out in style. A real man never looks back at the explosion. Boom. Chapter 370. New book update notice. In the original movie, The villain Ivan Vanko was nominated for the Best Villain Award at the 20th MTV Movie Awards. This shows that this man with a toothpick in his mouth is still very charming. Although he is a villain, he has a clear goal, an arrogant attitude, a cool look, and a clean and ruthless move. There is no saintly heart on his side. For example, the man who replaced him, Ivan Vanko, didn't even say a word. He knocked the opponent unconscious with one move, and then blew him up with a bomb. It was really ruthless. Faced with such a ruthless villain, Miss Hermione's system options immediately popped up. Option 1, out of humanitarianism, use the time converter to go back to the past and save the dead who was just blown up. Complete the task and reward a pair of skates. Option 2, help the villain kill more people, die early and reincarnate early. The dark world is not worth lingering. Completing the task will reward villain +1. Option 3, follow the villain to see the mastermind Justin Hammer behind the scenes. Completing the task will reward basic attributes +1. It seems that the system is still very comprehensive, with humanitarianism, villain blood, and of course, it is more in line with Miss Hermione's personality. Hermione didn't know the dead man just now. Why did she save him? Just an option task? Of course, Miss Hermione is not a villain. She will definitely not help Ivan Vanko kill more people. Saving people will destroy the cycle of life and death. After all, this is a movie world, and the death time of the dead is written in advance. Hermione can certainly change it, but in the end it will lead to a terrible butterfly effect, which is not worth the loss, unless it is an important person. Although it is said that human lives cannot be compared in law, but the reality is that human lives are divided into different levels. Miss Hermione is also an ordinary person. She feels that her life is more important than the lives of all people in the Marvel world combined, and it cannot be refuted. Miss Hermione does not save people or kill people, she follows invisibly to see. Ivan Vanko is still very fierce. As a physicist, he has a muscular body and is also very fierce in fighting. It can be seen that he often fought when he was a child. He easily killed 2 guards. Ivan Vanko continued to escape, but this is a prison. Ivan Vanko detonated a bomb to cause panic, but it is still very difficult to escape in a swagger, unless he is a Marvel mutant or has superpowers. In fact, he has none. So, at this time, another villain leader Justin Hammer came on the scene. As the big boss of Hammer Advanced Industries, he certainly would not do it himself, and his men could do it for him. 2 men disguised as prison guards went up and put a hood on Ivan Vanko. When Ivan Vanko was about to resist, they said in his ear, "Come with us, our boss wants to see you." Ivan Vanko became honest. Although he was brutal, he also knew how to judge the situation. Before he had the power of ignoring the enemy like the invincible Hulk, he must choose the best. At this moment, he must suffer some grievances before he can leave the prison safely. Otherwise, Ivan Vanko will most likely spend the rest of his life in this prison. Miss Hermione was so satisfied with the movie that she had already eaten popcorn. Although she was at the scene, she positioned herself as a spectator, and the viewing experience on the scene was still very good. The punches hit the flesh, and the special effects of the explosion were also quite real. Even if Miss Hermione was far away, she felt a heat wave coming. A special card took Ivan Vanko completely out of the prison. When the prison guards began to clean up the mess, they mistakenly thought that the person who was killed in the explosion in Ivan Vanko's prison was Ivan Vanko. Some people even suspected that it was Iron Man Tony Stark who secretly killed him for revenge. After all, in front of everyone at the racetrack, Ivan Vanko almost killed Iron Man Tony Stark. Ivan Vanko was of low status, so if he died, he died, and no one spoke up for him. Many forces are interested in the technology of Iron Man's armor, which is a treasure. Undercurrents surge, and the action against Iron Man Tony Stark begins. A special car drove all the way to a secret industrial area. There are many kilometers of Hammer's Advanced Industrial Park here, and it is difficult for outsiders to come in, and no one will notice this place. After Ivan Vanko was released from prison, he was brought here. He was still wearing handcuffs on his wrists. After being pushed to sit down, the person behind him pulled off his hood. The bright and dazzling light immediately pierced Ivan Vanko's eyes, but Ivan Vanko did not show any embarrassment. On the contrary, his attitude was very arrogant. It was as if it was not him who was arrested at the moment, but the other party. In front of him was a large table, and people kept bringing food and wine to the table. The space around was also very large, which was in line with the design of the factory. Justin Hammer still looked like a human being. When he saw Ivan Vanko, he immediately smiled and said, "I admire you very much. Who of you locked up my VIP? Open the handcuffs quickly." He pretended to be very similar. Ivan Vanko didn't take this trick seriously at all. He just watched Justin Hammer continue his performance with cold eyes. Justin Hammer saw the other party's sharp eyes and arrogant attitude, but he was not angry. Cooperation and win-win must give enough respect. After all, this is a rare genius. None of the engineers and scientists hired by Justin Hammer at a high price can overcome the technology of Iron Man. If an Ivan Vanko falls from the sky today, Justin Hammer will definitely catch him. And the most surprising thing is that although Ivan Vanko doesn't know what his identity is, he actually has a grudge against Iron Man Tony Stark. The enemy of the enemy is a friend. Justin Hammer began to introduce himself. Most people would be scared to death by seeing such a well-known arms dealer, but Ivan Vanko was unmoved. The delicious steak on the table in front of him made him more concerned. There was no close-up in the movie, so it was hard to guess what Ivan Vanko was thinking. In fact, it was very easy to analyze. Ivan Vanko's father was a scientist who was abandoned by Iron Man's father and had a miserable old age. Ivan Vanko's life was also rough, so he not only hated Iron Man Tony Stark, but also hated capitalists like arms dealers. Therefore, Justin Hammer's complacent identity was not much different from a dead rat in a stinky ditch in Ivan Vanko's eyes. A charming villain would definitely not be convinced by the low-level money, power, and stinky tastes. Justin Hammer saw that Ivan Vanko was eating delicious food and didn't seem to listen to him at all. Justin Hammer also began to follow the other party's character, stopped talking nonsense, and went straight to the point. "I rescued you in the hope that you can help me build a batch of armor like Iron Man. We have a common enemy. You want to kill Tony Stark, and I want to destroy Stark Industries. We can cooperate." At this time, Ivan Vanko was full. He picked up the wine glass, showed his big teeth and smiled. "Okay, cooperation. But I have a request." The only request. Justin Hammer was very happy. He didn't expect Ivan Vanko to be so sensible. "Any request is fine, just say it," Ivan Vanko said with the charm of a villain character. "I want my parrot." New book for support. Thank you all. A new book may be released tomorrow. At that time, the new book will be updated in the morning, and this book will be updated in the afternoon or evening. Thank you all for your company and support again. Chapter 371. The new book has been updated and is awaiting review. The new book has been updated with 2 chapters, waiting for review. The old book will be updated normally until the end. Thank you for your support. Ivan Vanko's parrot is undoubtedly a special character of his as a villain. He is cruel and violent, but he has a snow-white parrot to rely on. This may also represent another kind of his personality. A bird? The profit-seeking businessman Justin Hammer will not understand Ivan Vanko's unique hobby. Although both of them are villains in this drama, their styles of doing things are completely different. "It's my parrot." Ivan Vanko emphasized his tone to show that this bird is very important to him. "Okay, no problem. I will arrange for someone to bring you a few birds immediately." "No. A dozen parrots." Liking birds is like a man liking beautiful women. Justin Hammer will give Ivan Vanko as many birds as he likes. Justin Hammer's disrespectful attitude undoubtedly made Ivan Vanko angry. He slammed the table and said in a strong tone, "I only want my parrot, my parrot." Ivan Vanko's parrot is abroad, and it is a bit troublesome to ship it over, for the sake of a bird. Although Justin Hammer did not understand Ivan Vanko's special hobby, he still agreed. "No problem, no problem, as long as you help me make a battle suit like Iron Man. Any request is fine." Justin Hammer happily stretched out his hand, and Ivan Vanko also grinned. The 2 villains cooperated happily. Miss Hermione on the side ate melons and watched the show for a while. and her system also popped up at the right time. Option 1. Give these two villains who are in collusion a little trouble to let them know that bad people will suffer retribution for cooperation. Complete the task and get a rice cooker as reward. Option 2. Wait and see, do not intervene. Complete the task and get a hot air balloon as reward. Option 3. The ground is too clean. Use magic to release some cockroaches and mice. Complete the task and get a basic attribute +1 reward. This system option is too direct. With Miss Hermione's personality, of course, the most suitable task is to reward the most valuable and not too difficult task. It is the easiest to not take action, but the reward of hot air balloon is useless, so option 3 has become a popular option. Miss Hermione's magic is perfect. She blew a breath, and Justin Hammer immediately had a bald spot on his head, and then all the hair Justin Hammer lost turned into cockroaches and mice under the effect of magic. This trick borrowed a bit from the skill of Sun Wukong in Journey to the West, who blew out millions of monkey hairs by pulling out a monkey hair, but Miss Hermione would definitely not pull out her own hair. The villain businessman Justin Hammer is young but not bald. If not his, then whose? Justin Hammer was drinking noble red wine, enjoying delicious food, and cooperating with Ivan Vanko, dreaming of one day stepping on Tony Stark and his Iron Man. What a proud life! But suddenly there was a light on his head. Could it be that the factory was leaking due to cutting corners? Reaching out and touching it. Damn, where is my hair? The two things that men fear most on their heads are green hats and baldness. And Justin Hammer has always had thick hair. How come he became bald directly after the cool breeze? This is too unscientific. Before Justin Hammer started looking for answers, a large number of cockroaches and rats suddenly appeared on the originally clean ground. The dense appearance made even a grown man feel numb. Come on, come on, come on, hurry up and get rid of these cockroaches and rats. Oh my god, why are there so many rats and cockroaches here? Who is doing the cleaning? Ivan Vanko shook his head after seeing it. The hygiene here is not very good. In such an environment, you still want to study exoskeleton mecha? Justin Hammer's face was very ugly. It had never happened before. The day was really weird. His head suddenly became bald. This problem has not been solved yet. Suddenly there are a bunch of rats and cockroaches on the ground. It is too unacceptable. Congratulations on completing the option 3 task. Reward basic attribute +1. Miss Hermione was very satisfied, who said that the villain should have a serious face or a unique environment. It's not bad to be a little lively and bald. Not only did he complete the task, but Miss Hermione also found it very interesting, although it would more or less expose part of her strength. After all, the rats and cockroaches were transformed. After a period of time, the transformed cockroaches and rats would immediately return to their original hair. A mess. Justin Hammer could only put on the wig sadly. He was in a bad mood, but as a villain, he still knew the importance of the matter. This time, the purpose of rescuing Ivan Vanko from prison was naturally not just to have a simple meal and see him suddenly become bald. Justin Hammer brought Ivan Vanko to the latest armor developed by his company. They were all in rows. They looked cool, but their practicality was far inferior to that of Iron Man's armor. Ivan Vanko saw it and felt that it was good to be rich. This pile of scrap metal is definitely worth a lot of money. Justin Hammer started to brag again. Each set here is worth $125.7 million. Although there is a component of pretense, it does show that it is expensive. Ivan Vanko didn't say it, but his body was very honest. He climbed onto a humanoid steel with the help of a ladder and took off the head directly. He saw that it was empty inside. Hammer's industrial technology was not in place. He imitated for the sake of imitation. This mecha had to leave a space for one person inside, which made the whole mecha look very cystic, and there were threads everywhere, which looked very messy. I can't design it. Ivan Vanko's answer after the inspection made Justin Hammer overjoyed. The sadness of being bald just now disappeared. Great, I'll wait for your good news. Miss Hermione was not idle either. The system's new option task came again. Option 1. A big fire. Burn this place directly. Completing the task will reward the exclusive attribute, fire energy, +1. Option 2. Kindly help the villain to transform the outer armor steel and evolve it into Gundam Godzilla Man. Completing the task will reward the exclusive attribute, Transformation, +1. Option 3. Go and see the story of Iron Man Tony Stark. Completing the task will reward basic attributes +1. Miss Hermione had never seen fire energy and transformation before. If it is a skill, it can still be considered. As for the attributes, the +1 feeling is actually not obvious. The basic attributes are more practical. Miss Hermione has already made Justin Hammer bald, and his hair has turned into cockroaches and rats. Now burning all his hard work with fire seems a bit cruel. It is not impossible to transform him into a Gundam Godzilla Man. With the diversity of Hermione's current studies, it should be possible to do it by spending some time. It's just that it is meaningless. You can't help the villain improve his technological strength. It's better to go and see how Iron Man is doing. This place is still a little far from Iron Man's big villa by the sea, but it doesn't matter. Miss Hermione took out the door key and teleported instantly. Iron Man is not feeling well, and his body is more poisoned. At the same time, the military put pressure on Colonel James Rhodes, who vouched for Tony Stark at the hearing, and came directly to Iron Man to seek an explanation. Happy New Year! Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 New Book Crossing the Battlefield. I am the most awesome male protagonist in history. The new book Crossing the Battle, I am the most powerful male protagonist in history has been uploaded successfully. Please support me. Thank you. Happy New Year. The old book will be updated as usual. Colonel James Rhodes in the movie is also in a difficult position. On the one hand, he is the best friend of Iron Man Tony Stark, and on the other hand, he also holds a high position in the military. He is not good on both sides, but he has to please both sides. If Iron Man is fine and everything goes smoothly, Colonel James Rhodes can also benefit from it. Now Tony Stark has enemies on all sides, and Iron Man's core technology is suspected to have been leaked. Outsiders have Iron Man's technology, so there is no reason for the military to be excluded. Colonel James Rhodes was severely criticized for this. At this time, just writing 2 letters of self-criticism is definitely not enough. When Colonel James Rhodes came to the seaside villa of Iron Man Tony Stark, Goddess Hermione also came. Colonel James Rhodes' driving is not slow. If there are special circumstances, he can directly take a military helicopter. But Miss Hermione was faster. She left a portkey at Iron Man's house. She teleported over. In the wizarding world, Harry Potter and others, who used the portkey for the first time, were a little embarrassed after landing. However, Miss Hermione's portkey was improved, and she was full of various strange energies, so her floating landing technique was still a piece of cake. Colonel James Rhodes couldn't see Miss Hermione. He didn't know that there was a god in this huge sea view villa, and he often came to trigger the optional tasks. Miss Hermione's strength was getting stronger and stronger, which was also related to her tireless work on tasks. Tony Stark was not feeling well, so he was always checking the poisoning of his body. The poison content in his blood was very scary. When poisoned, the blood vessels would also float to the surface of the skin, starting from the position of the heart, and now it has spread to the neck. If it spreads to the brain, it will definitely be fatal. Tony Stark was in a very bad mood. He wanted to talk to God, even if he was directly killed by the explosion or falling down like in the story of Iron Man 1. It would be better than dying from chronic poisoning like now. It was too torturous. Hermione ran around but never appeared in front of Tony Stark, nor did she tell him what the future would be like. Even though Tony Stark was extremely anxious. At this time, Colonel James Rhodes came to question him. When he saw Tony Stark's depressed look, he thought he was also annoyed that Ivan Vanko had the arc reactor technology. "Tony, you must cheer up. Do you know how much pressure I am facing now? You must solve it for me immediately. If you can't solve it, I will take away your Iron Man armor." This was the ultimatum Colonel James Rhodes gave to Tony Stark. "Impossible. I won't hand over my technology to those greedy guys." He doesn't trust anyone except himself. And even now he has complaints about God, who is about to die of poisoning. Hermione once told Tony Stark that he was the spokesperson chosen by God and the superhero of this world. The superhero who was about to die of poisoning, but God didn't say a word. Although in the previous story, God was indeed like a savior and saved him many times. Tony Stark knew that God was just unwilling to help. If she was willing to help, Tony's poisoning would be a piece of cake. Now, Tony is like going through hardships, and he must bear it by himself. "You have a tattoo? What's the matter with the special stripes on your neck?" James Rhodes didn't understand that Tony had been poisoned, but Tony's face was indeed not very good, and the traces of poisoning had reached his neck. Tony Stark subconsciously pulled up his collar and pretended to be nonchalant. "How about we have a drink?" "Tony, I have to tell you solemnly that I don't have any intention of drinking with you now. You must solve this matter immediately, otherwise you will bear the consequences." After saying that, James Rhodes left. It's not that James Rhodes is particularly busy, but in the first movie, he has already shown his character. He can't stand the material temptation of Tony Stark. Beauty and wine are too easy to make people sink. At this time, if Colonel James Rhodes is still spending money with Tony Stark, he is too shameless. In order to avoid being led into the ditch by Tony Stark, he must leave immediately after reporting. What Colonel James Rhodes didn't know was that until he left, Miss Hermione had not triggered the system option task. It can be seen that James Rhodes's gear is still not high enough. It doesn't matter. Without the task, Hermione can just go back to Hogwarts. "I have been staying in Marvel for a long time this time. If it weren't for the time converter, I would have been in Hogwarts for a long time." But the system prompted Hermione to stay until the evening. Tony Stark now looks a little pitiful. He is only surrounded by bodyguards, but the bodyguards are too honest and there is no way to talk to them. He really wants Pepper to accompany him. It is true that Tony Stark is a playboy, but when a person's life is approaching zero, the person he misses the most is undoubtedly the person he cares about the most. But Pepper is now arranged by Tony Stark to take over the entire Stark Industries, and because of the appearance of Ivan Vanko, she is now busy at Stark Industries. The stock price has plummeted all the way. At the beginning, Tony Stark created the Stark Expo, which made the stock price soar. People all over the world think that Iron Man is Tony Stark. No company can make Iron Man armor, only Tony Stark. But now, Ivan Vanko has been slapped in the face, and shareholders have sold Stark Industrial stocks one after another. The company has also ushered in an unprecedented crisis. Pepper Potts definitely couldn't chat with Tony Stark at this moment. Tony Stark should be very busy. Yes, he has a lot of things to do, but he sat alone until dark, until a sexy beauty, Black Widow, came. She still disguised herself as a company employee and held important documents in her hands. "Boss, who are you waiting for?" Tony Stark might be in a too negative mood. He didn't hide it and said in a tone that sounded like a joke, "Yes, that's right, I'm waiting for my God." Black Widow is not an ordinary person. She is not only an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., but her body has been transformed and she can almost be immortal. Of course, her strength is still at the level of a super agent, not as exaggerated as the Invincible Hulk, but here, as long as Goddess Hermione is willing, it is not impossible to transform Black Widow into something more terrifying than the Hulk, but it is not necessary. "God?" Black Widow said. "Boss, you are really a joke." Tony Stark also laughed, a bitter laugh. "It really sounds like a joke. Are you here so late to have a chat with me?" Seeing Tony Stark's playboy look, Black Widow said without giving him face, "I brought some company documents that need your signature. By the way, I came to see how you are, as an agent. Black Widow has an important mission." Colonel James Rhodes thought that the new tattoo on Tony Stark's neck looked like a QR code, but Black Widow didn't think so. Who would tattoo a QR code on their neck for no reason? Chapter 373 Return to Hogwarts. Tony Stark stopped joking and signed his name honestly. He really shouldn't tell Black Widow about the things related to God, even though he was under great mental pressure at the moment. But when Black Widow was about to leave, Tony Stark still asked a question. Suppose, if a person can only celebrate his last birthday, how do you think he should celebrate it? Black Widow looked at Tony Stark with doubt. This guy seemed to have something to say. Black Widow thought for a while and said, "If I can only celebrate my last birthday, I think I will do whatever I want." Black Widow left after she finished speaking. In fact, it can be said that Goddess Hermione let her go on purpose, because there was a familiar dialogue box in front of Hermione. Option 1. Force Black Widow to stay and tell Tony Stark the story of 1001 Nights. Complete the task and get a set of classic masterpieces as a reward. Option 2. Maybe Tony Stark needs someone to slap him in the face and use magic to control Black Widow to hit Tony Stark's big face. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with a pair of rubber gloves. Option 3. The world is dark. Maybe the lights in Tony Stark's room are too bright and need to be dimmed. Complete the task and you will be rewarded with a bag of peanuts. Well, 3 tasks with no nutrition. The first 2 require the cooperation of Black Widow, which is a bit troublesome. Miss Hermione will be exposed to her sooner or later, but not now. There is no need for her to do anything to entrust Iron Man. So Hermione's option 3. She snapped her fingers slightly, and the sound control happened to be heard by only her, and then the lights in Tony Stark's room dimmed. Tony Stark immediately noticed it, and he shouted angrily, "Why are you against me in everything?" He called the smart housekeeper and asked it to quickly solve the problem of the sudden dimming of the lights. However, the smart housekeeper replied, "Sorry, I can't find the reason at the moment." Tony Stark said, "It's really useless, forget it, I'll do it myself." Tony Stark began to look for tools, but took a look at the night outside the French window and finally threw away the tools in his hand. "It's too late, let's talk about it tomorrow." Hermione looked at Tony Stark's bad mood and thought about comforting him, but she also felt that if Hermione comforted him now, maybe he wouldn't mess around at his birthday party later. Then the subsequent plot would begin to change. As a god, Miss Hermione must at least have the ability to predict the future, otherwise how can she call herself a god? Hermione finally traveled back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry with a bag of peanuts obtained for completing the task. Inside the magic tent were the warriors participating in the Triwizard Tournament. Hermione was here just now and was captured by the reporter of the Daily Prophet because she gave Harry a piece of chocolate. "Hello, warriors, please gather together. You have been anxiously waiting for this moment, and it has finally arrived. Only the 4 of you can understand its true meaning." Principal Dumbledore came in and gave a conversation, and then seemed to have discovered something changed and asked, "Was there another person here just now?" Yes, Miss Hermione Granger was also in the tent just now, but she suddenly disappeared at this moment. Harry explained, "Maybe you are hallucinating, Headmaster." Crumb on the side immediately cast a puzzled look. Hallucination? Then who was he speaking for and scolding the group of people from the Daily Prophet, for the air? But Crumb did not expose Harry. Perhaps there was some special reason why the beautiful Miss Hermione suddenly disappeared. Headmaster Dumbledore seemed to know something. He no longer bothered about Miss Hermione and said, "Patty, Bag." Barty Crouch, director of the Ministry of Magic's executive department, was like a handyman at the moment, following behind Headmaster Dumbledore to help. After all, Headmaster Dumbledore was more skilled in the next matter. "Warriors, please stand around me. Miss Delacour, here, Mr. Crumb, and Potter, stand here, right." "Now, Miss Delacour, you choose." A cloth bag, dark gray in color, not very conspicuous, but the things inside are what Hagrid wants most. The bag is full of dragons the size of a palm. After Miss Hermione came back from Marvel, she left the tent because she didn't want to join in the fun, but the system didn't seem to think so. A pop-up window was given with options. Option 1, rush in and grab all the dragons at once, even if they are used for hot pot. They are delicious. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, Robber, +1. Option 2, rush into the tent to perform a space dance and tell everyone that you also want to participate in the dragon fighting conference. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, attention, +1. Option 3, calm down. Dragons may not be delicious, and no matter how good you are at dancing, you have to choose the occasion, so I choose to sing, and completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, singing, +1. These three options and tasks are really not easy to deal with. Fortunately, Hermione found a place where the options were not clearly specified, that is, option 3, singing, but there is no regulation on where to sing. If you run into the tent to sing, it does make you look stupid. On the contrary, going to the wilderness is to cultivate your sentiments. In order not to miss the interesting events in the tent, Hermione used the time converter to go back 10 minutes, and came to the dark forest to sing a little love song. After completing the task, she came back. It just happened that the time was stuck. Buxbaton's warrior, Fleur Delacour, was the first to choose. As the only girl among the 4 warriors, she was still a little nervous because the cloth bag did not look gentle. Welsh green dragon. After taking it out, Dumbledore directly announced the name of the dragon. The purpose of choosing the little dragon was to go out and duel with the big dragon of this kind of dragon later. The details of the duel method may be a little different, but the rules are similar. The giantess headmaster next to Fleur Delacour nodded, as if she thought that this kind of dragon was not particularly difficult to deal with. Mr. Krum was called, and he glanced at Harry Potter. His intuition told him that Harry must have a relationship with the beautiful girl Miss Hermione Granger who was just in the tent. What exactly is the relationship? That is unknown. Fireball Dragon. Next came the turn of the Hogwarts warrior, Cedric Diggory. He took out a little dragon from his bag. Swedish short-nosed dragon. It was Harry Potter's turn. Poor Harry reached into the bag as well, but in fact, he had no choice. There was only one kind of dragon left. Hornfly dragon. Hungarian hornfly dragon. It was a very fierce dragon. Harry was a little worried that he would not be able to defeat it. At this time, Headmaster Dumbledore began to announce the rules of the competition. These represent real dragons. Each one is protecting a golden egg. Your task is simple. Get the golden egg. This must be done because there is a clue in the golden egg. Without it, you cannot enter the next project. Any questions? The 4 warriors nodded at the same time. Very good, warriors. Good luck to you. Dumbledore clapped his hands and called out, Mr. Diggory, when the cannon goes off, you. However, before Dumbledore finished speaking, the cannon had already gone off. With a bang, the earth shook the mountains. The person who fired the cannon was Mr. Filch, the caretaker of Hogwarts. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 374 Harry Potter Fighting Dragon. Thinking about Filch, nothing is strange. He has always done things this way, and Dumbledore didn't say much. Diggory, Diggory, Diggory. There was a warm and excited voice outside, and it was obvious that the audience was more excited than the warrior contestants. People who watch a show never complain that the atmosphere group is too lively, they only complain that it is not lively enough. Harry in the tent could only wait anxiously. After a long time, Miss Hermione returned to the tent. Although Miss Hermione was more invisible in the Marvel world and was a spectator, she was still the sweet lady witch in Hogwarts. She has been a god for too long, and it is also a good choice to come back and be an ordinary little girl. Hermione, you are back. Hermione nodded when she said this. How is it outside? Hermione shook her head and said, I didn't see it, but you don't have to be nervous. I believe you, you can do it, Hermione said to Harry Potter seriously. Thank you. Harry still clenched his hands, and the tension in his heart did not decrease at all. Hermione was very comfortable, although she had a lot of tasks every day, and sometimes she would do some very strange things, such as she went to the dark forest to sing a beautiful song not long ago. However, her love for life was from the heart. So as long as suffering did not happen to her, she could live a carefree and free life every day. So, Hermione took out the delicious snacks and ate them, while shaking her legs cutely. If Tony Stark and the Hulk in the Marvel world knew that the god in their eyes was actually such a cute girl in Hogwarts, They would definitely be shocked. "Would you like to eat something?" "No, thank you." Harry was really not in the mood to eat at the moment, but Hermione said, "Why are you being polite to me? Eat it." It was hard to refuse the kindness, so Harry Potter could only take it awkwardly and eat it. It was delicious. Miss Hermione's snacks were all delicious. I don't know how much time has passed, and finally the voice of Headmaster Dumbledore came from outside the tent. "We have 3 warriors who have defeated the dragon, so all 3 of them will enter the next event. Now it's the 4th and last contestant. All succeeded. They are really amazing." Harry admired them in his heart. The first competition was at the last moment. Originally, because of Malfoy, many students from the same school were laughing at Harry Potter, but when he really represented Hogwarts to participate in the dragon fighting competition, there was no more mocking voice in the audience, but all kinds of shouts and encouragement. "Harry, Harry, Harry." This voice really made people's blood boil. With Miss Hermione's company, Harry Potter felt very happy. At this moment, his whole body was full of strength. With the expectations of his classmates, Harry Potter opened the door of the tent. Outside was a huge dragon fighting field, which was not flat, but had many rocks. A huge horn-tailed dragon, with a chain around its neck, was locked on a boulder, surrounded by spectators watching the game. The horn-tailed dragon looked at Harry Potter and spit out hot flames. Next to the dragon was a huge dragon egg. "I don't know whose bad idea was this first dragon fight. It's too dangerous and super troublesome. It's probably just to show the duel between dragons and wizards." If the dragon could talk, it would definitely say, "A bunch of cowards. If you have the guts to open the chains, let's fight with real swords and guns." The chains limit the dragon's strength. Even if the flames are hot and Harry Potter hides behind the boulder, the dragon can't do anything. In the original movie, it was still Hermione who reminded Harry, "Harry, use your wand quickly." Here, there is no need for Hermione to remind him. Harry, who is dodging the dragon's flames, takes out his wand to fight the dragon. If he doesn't use magic, does he have to use a shield plus a giant sword? Isn't that the standard for warriors? Here comes the firebolt. Harry raised his wand, which means he is summoning it with magic. It was Mad-Eye Moody who reminded Harry of this. There is no rule in the competition that prohibits the use of wands, so use the wand to summon a flying broom, and then use the flying broom to quickly take away the dragon egg next to the dragon, and the first level is completed. Harry Potter is Gryffindor's Seeker, and his broomstick skills are pretty good. The onlookers also noticed Harry Potter's cleverness and praised him. "Good job." Harry Potter's broomstick seemed to be asleep. Harry called for a while before it flew over quickly. Harry was surprised and jumped on the broomstick and flew. A wizard who can fly is like a magician. Seeing that Harry Potter, a stinky boy with glasses, did not play according to the routine, the horn-tailed dragon was immediately angry. The dragon's temper could not bear him, and it shook its neck violently and broke free from the chain. "Oh my God!" Ron in the audience exclaimed. "That's terrible." This didn't happen to the 3 dragons in front of him. Only Harry Potter would encounter such an accident. Could it be that the chain that locked the horn-tailed dragon was actually tampered by an outsider? It's too difficult to solve the case. As long as it is a mystery that happens in Hogwarts, it is basically unsolvable. Harry Potter was flying on a broom, thinking that he could take advantage of the situation and easily take the golden dragon egg next to the dragon. But he didn't expect that the horn-tailed dragon broke free from the chain, spread its wings, and flew up directly. The dragon was also a dragon with a brain that couldn't turn around. It would take revenge on whoever caught it and locked it up. But the horn-tailed dragon didn't do that. It chased Harry Potter, which scared Harry so much that the flames sprayed and almost burned his butt. If he was slower, he could smell the barbecue. It was too dangerous. Harry Potter didn't care about the flying traffic and avoided the horn-tailed dragon at the fastest speed. Boom! Harry Potter flew over the professor's position in the audience. The horn-tailed dragon behind him hit it directly, and the wooden building flew across. Professor Snape and Barty Crouch and others inside were knocked down. The dragon continued to chase Harry. "Yeah, well done, little dragon." Malfoy watched the excitement and cheered instead. He was not calling for the dragon to knock down Professor Snape and others, He was calling for the dragon to chase Harry Potter closely, and it would be best if it could bite off Harry Potter's arms and legs, so that he would become like Mad-Eye Moody and could only live with prosthetic limbs. After Professor Snape fell to the ground, he looked innocent. He seriously suspected that Harry Potter did it on purpose. Besides, he didn't arrange the first warrior-dragon fight, so why did he bring the dragon to hit him? Harry Potter was panicking and came to Hogwarts Castle. In the original movie, Harry brought the dragon to damage many buildings in the castle. This behavior of damaging public property was not punished. Miss Hermione wanted to continue watching the show, but the system options popped up. Option 1. Stop Harry Potter from taking the horn-tailed dragon to destroy the ancient buildings of Hogwarts. Some of those buildings have existed for thousands of years and should not be destroyed in the Dragon Fight project. Complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, Good Person, +1. Option 2. Use magic to let Harry Potter take the horn-tailed dragon to the dark forest, where there are many trees, and you can start a forest fire to burn everything. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, Bad Guy, +1. Option 3. Simply help Harry Potter stun the dragon, but do not kill the dragon. Completing the task will reward you with the basic attribute +1. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 375, Traveling Through Marvel Again. The task requires either being a good person or a bad person, neither of which Hermione wants to choose. If she were the system, she would definitely arrange a fourth option, eating, drinking and having fun, and completing the task would reward basic attributes +100. It has been adding +1 every time for so many years, it's too stingy. Miss Hermione is a goddess, she also wants to experience the feeling of getting rich. Just think about it, it's not good to be distracted when working. Even if there are no outsiders here, the cautious Hermione did not choose to expose her body. She did not ride a flying broom, and her flexible figure was as smooth as a flying swallow in the air. Harry Potter was much more embarrassed. He was chased by the dragon and fled everywhere. In the original play, the dragon knocked himself out with the help of the bridge building. Although Miss Hermione is not very interested in being a good person, she has lived in Hogwarts for many years and has some natural feelings for this place. If you continue to let the dragon chase Harry Potter, it will inevitably cause more damage to the building. It's better to take action in time. When Harry Potter was being chased by the horn-tailed dragon, a force that could not be seen, touched or smelled suddenly hit him from the side. It was magic. Harry Potter could feel the elements around him stirring. It took a great magician of a terrifying level to create such an amazing effect. Moreover, the accuracy of the magic attack was also quite terrifying. It hit the target with one strike. The head of the horn-tailed dragon was wrapped in magic power. The next moment, the power of the stunning spell acted on the dragon's entire body. The dragon's eyes instantly lost their spirit, yawned, and fell from midair. Anyone who has studied physics knows that if the dragon falls from this height, the end will definitely be very tragic. It may be bloody. Fortunately, Miss Hermione was merciful. Of course, there were also system options, so she cast a levitation spell to allow the dragon to land safely. In order to avoid it being too fake, she deliberately left some scratches on the dragon's body. It was strange that a wizard did not use magic, but only used escape to deal with the dragon. It seems that Harry Potter has never learned that the best way to retreat is to attack. Harry Potter was wearing glasses, and his butt was still burning from sitting on the broomstick. The dragon's fire had just burned him, but everything in front of him made it impossible for him to calm down. The dragon that had just been chasing him, how could it suddenly faint? Could it be, there is a master to help? Harry Potter was not stupid. Since the master was unwilling to show up, Harry would not expose the other party and ride back quickly. In the dragon fighting venue, countless spectators were cheering. Oh my god, look, it's Harry Potter who is back. Awesome, he actually killed the dragon and came back alone. Harry Potter. Voices supporting and encouraging Harry Potter came one after another. At this moment, Miss Hermione also took off her invisibility cloak and appeared in the crowd. Because her current means and skills were extraordinary, Ron beside her did not notice it. Harry Potter also jumped down and raised the dragon egg. The dragon egg is just a symbol, not a real dragon egg, but a hint about the next competition. However, if the participating warriors can't even get the dragon egg, then the first competition will undoubtedly fail. Harry Potter was very happy. There were many people in the audience seats around him, but he quickly found the peerless Miss Hermione Granger. As expected, it must be her. Miss Granger must have helped him just now, because Granger can be invisible, and since this year, Hermione's mystery has been further magnified. Harry couldn't imagine how much power Hermione has. When Miss Hermione was about to stay in Hogwarts to continue watching the game, another accident happened in the Marvel world. "I'm going to travel through Marvel again." The story of the Marvel Universe is very long. Miss Hermione has only completed the mission to the stage of Iron Man 2. Every time Hermione travels through time, she has to think about what happened before she left. Tony Stark was poisoned and dying soon. He talked to Black Widow, and Black Widow told him to have a birthday that he was satisfied with. So, feeling abandoned by God, Iron Man Tony Stark decided to go crazy again in the last moments of his life, go back to his old ways. That's right, Tony Stark held his birthday party in his luxurious Seaview villa, and invited at least 100 young models. Those who were not firm enough would probably have a nosebleed on the spot. In terms of the influence of Playboy, we have to look at Iron Man Tony Stark. After Miss Hermione traveled through the time and space gate, the party had already begun. Explosive music, countless beautiful women, colorful lights, feasting and revelry. What a happy place. Tony Stark went even further and danced on the stage wearing Iron Man armor. It must be said that Tony Stark's dance was quite magical. Lady Hermione did not reject it, and of course she would not be keen on such occasions. From Tony Stark's perspective, it can be understood. Ordinary people, rich and powerful, and few normal men are not playboys. Later, after being kidnapped and having a hole in his chest, he had a great enlightenment and became a superhero for a while. But now, the arc reactor was poisoned and he was about to die. It was understandable that he was unrestrained and crazy on his birthday. Miss Hermione turned invisible and found a seat to sit down. She ate the snacks she brought while watching Iron Man dance closely. The system option task had not popped up yet, and Miss Hermione was not in a hurry. The person who should be anxious came out, and it can be said that she was the person who cared about Tony Stark the most at present. Pepper Potts. As a top agent of SHIELD, Black Widow's business ability was as good as her figure, and she was able to gain Pepper's trust in such a short time. Now, not only did she leave most of the company's affairs to Black Widow without reservation, but she was also brought along with her wherever she went. It was heard that Iron Man Tony Stark held a grand birthday party at home that was unique. Pepper, who was already overwhelmed by the company's stock price plummeting due to the appearance of Ivan Vanko, learned that Tony Stark had invited more than 100 beauties to his home to hold a carnival birthday party, making the house a mess. If this matter was exposed to the media, Pepper couldn't imagine what kind of corrupt image her boss Tony Stark would appear in front of the public in tomorrow's news. It's crazy. It's too lawless. When Pepper came and saw this scene, she was so angry that her liver hurt. Black Widow on the side vaguely felt that this kind of thing happened, mostly because of her unintentional words that night. However, knowing Tony Stark's romantic history, Black Widow was not surprised that he did such an amazing thing. Black Widow is an agent of SHIELD. She naturally has deeper thoughts, such as why Tony Stark would do such a thing out of the ordinary. Is his body really going to fail? Tony Stark's poisoning has been going on for a long time, but Pepper still doesn't know about it. She is busy with the company's affairs all day and has no time to care about Tony Stark's personal affairs. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.